Chapter 205. With his 18 multiplier intuition, Tang Tian's sensitivity to danger was far beyond that of a normal person. From the moment he landed until now, the normal stone gravel beasts were like vegetables in his hands. Not a single stone gravel beast gave him the slightest bit of danger. Xiaqing was extremely excited. Upon appearing, Xiaowan's gaze was attracted to him. Bang! He originally did not have much stamina left after the fight. He was so tired that he was gasping for breath. Ling Su had been wandering outside for a long time and had a lot of battle experience, although it was his first time seeing a stone gravel beast, but after a few rounds he was able to find out the weakness of these big-sized beasts. The rain was extremely heavy, the sky and earth were covered in water, and the figure in the rain was somewhat blurry. If not for the fact that everyone present had astonishing eyesight, they would not have been able to see it. Plop! Tang Tian, who was in the rain, fell. Tang Tian stared at the stone gravel beast in front of him, his expression congealed. The stone gravel beast king in front of him was releasing a dangerous qi. The black metal right hand in Tang Tian's eyes was extremely clear. Tang Tian's pupils shrunk. It was all metal hand. Tang Tian was extremely excited. He looked at the meal box in front of him. The meal box was extremely beautiful. The volume was huge. Xiaqing respectfully opened the lid. Thank you. Even the muscles on his face had different degrees of injuries. Ling Su was taken aback. He raised his head. A delicate and pretty face entered his vision. Xiaowan met Ling Su's gaze and immediately became flustered. The handkerchief in his hand stuffed into Ling Su's hand and turned to run. Xiaqing immediately ordered the villagers not to go near and disturb Tang Tian. The sparks enveloped the two figures. Xiaqing and the rest could only see two shadows in the sparks. Tang Tian was extremely comfortable fighting. It was such a small piece, even if he wiped it, it would be useless. Ling Su's face was puzzled. He looked at the snow-white handkerchief, and then looked at his body that was drenched in sweat. Ling Su heaved a sigh of relief. The silver hair on his forehead was completely drenched in sweat. They retreated. Tang Tian let out a long howl. His claw shadows were like the wind, fighting speed with speed. Such a bad thing, shouldn't it be done by Bing? Indeed, he who keeps company with ink will be stained black. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew past and raindrops the size of beans fell with a pitter-patter. In the blink of an eye, it became a downpour. Without thinking, Tang Tian exerted strength in his legs. His body lowered. Like an arrow leaving the bow, he pounced towards the stone gravel beast king. His 5 fingers that were hanging by his side swept across the air. Suddenly, his fingertips lit up with a red light that looked like a burning brand. The light increased rapidly, and with a crackling sound, sparks bloomed on Tang Tian's fingertips. The sparks quickly became blazing and dazzling. Tang Tian wished he could roar into the sky. He couldn't remember how many days he had been grinding the anvil. It was an extremely boring cultivation day after day. At this moment, the suppressed battle intent completely erupted. Being able to spar with a powerful fellow always made Tang Tian excited. A bowl of cold water and half a steamed bun. His body was agile, coming and going like lightning. Every spear never missed. Suddenly, a sharp whistle came out from afar. The whistle was ear-piercing, causing Tang Tian's mind to go into a trance. The stone gravel beast king's eyes lit up with a faint light aura. It fiercely retreated, not even looking at Tang Tian, and flew far away. But the opponent was not having it easy either. Tang Tian had very sinisterly added the sharp crane body energy into the violent and ferocious fire scythe ghost claw. Countless sparks suddenly exploded out from Tang Tian's fire scythe ghost claw, just like fireworks. And the surging earth affinity true power suddenly exploded out from the stone gravel beast king's fists. The sturdy ground was like a ripple, spreading out in all directions. This is a true martial artist. Hey, you asshole. Ling Su's face was full of pity. No choice, this is the path he chose. All the stone gravel beasts retreated like the tide, leaving behind sand and stones on the ground. Ding ding ding. Xiaowan responded and immediately went to prepare. From the looks of it, he was a powerful fellow. He seemed to completely rely on his intuition, and that caused his moves to be untraceable. The stone gravel beast king's brown crystal clear eyes flashed with a light aura and raised its right fist. Tang Tian's eyes stared straight. Even Tang Tian and Ling Su were stunned by the astonishing power, but the two of them did not pursue. Tang Tian's gaze was fixated on the stone gravel beast king. The stone gravel beast king's figure very quickly disappeared. Rumble. Xiaqing's expression was aghast. His gaze was more attracted to the intense battle between Tang Tian and the stone gravel beast king. One man and one beast fighting fiercely. The scene was extremely explosive. Tang Tian's 5 fingers went numb. The surging earth affinity true power carried a huge force, and Tang Tian felt as though he was fighting with a heavy hammer. When Tang Tian called him just now, he was immersed in training, and at this moment his entire body was drenched in sweat. Ling Su glanced at him. The silver spear in his hand was like a poisonous dragon coming out of its cave. The sound of the spear breaking through the air could be heard. This feeling was really good. Such a young man. Every muscle in his body was trembling. The meridians in his body were all filled with hidden injuries, and he would need to spend a few days to fully recover. Ling Su, you're dead. The stone gravel beast is retreating. When Tang Tian rushed to the pavilion, he sat on a stone bench, panting with all his might. Using all his strength to activate the fire scythe ghost claw, to sustain such a high-intensity battle to the current Tang Tian, it was still beyond his capabilities. Tang Tian then realized, no wonder the fire scythe ghost claw was a 7th-level martial technique. In the wind and rain, Tang Tian stumbled along and even fell a few times. His body was covered in mud and water. But because of the injuries on his face, his current expression was unspeakably dazed. Tang Tian's expression was like he was holding in his shit. Just now he was too engrossed in the fight, and Tang Tian did not hold back at all. When he was fighting he did not feel it, but after the fight Tang Tian realized that he did not hold back his strength in the fight, although it was satisfying, but it did harm to his own body. He patted Tang Tian's shoulder and said sincerely, "The scenery here is not bad, take your time to admire it." So powerful. Xiawan was stunned, her gaze was firmly attracted to Ling Su. Like the wind, his figure brought along a dazzling and gorgeous light belt. The fire scythe ghost claw and the stone gravel beast king's fist clashed. Xiaqing immediately looked over, and as expected, the lonely figure in the rain trembled and immediately stumbled over. The villagers' cheers exploded out, and an unnoticeable smile blossomed on his face. "Master, please enjoy your meal," Xiaqing said respectfully. Xiaqing was moved. To train one's willpower must be unwavering with such strength. To be able to be so self-disciplined and bitterly trained, that's too amazing. The stone gravel beast king's fist was actually completely metallized. The black metal palm was covered with specks of gold stars, looking like the night sky, mysterious and beautiful. The violent sparks became unpredictable. Ling Su turned and left under Tang Tian's scolding and walked out for 30 m, blocking Xiaqing, who was about to step forward, and said seriously, "Please do not disturb him, he is currently thinking about something important." But it was really satisfying. He suddenly regained his senses and immediately ordered, "Little sister, quickly go and prepare the food. Remember, half a bun, a bowl of cold water." It was as though a burning red iron claw was continuously hitting a heavy hammer. Every claw would cause sparks to fly, and the concentrated sounds of collisions made it hard for people to breathe. In a pavilion 300 m away, Ling Su smiled as he received the hot tea from Xiawan, and leisurely sipped on it. He had just taken a hot bath, changed into a clean set of clothes, and the hot tea flowed down his throat. It was an indescribable comfort. Tang Tian's spirit was roused. "Good, wait for this brother to eat his fill, then we will settle this debt." Ghost Claw did not teach Tang Tian any of the fire scythe ghost claw techniques, so Tang Tian knew how to create sparks in the air. But Tang Tian did not have the slightest bit of fear because of that. Instead, he used all sorts of techniques without any rhyme or reason to it. Hearing that, Xiaqing hurriedly nodded his head. Okay. He glanced at Tang Tian, but Tang Tian was still staring at the direction the stone gravel beast king left, as though he was in a daze. Ling Su muttered in his heart and stuffed it into his pocket. He decided that it would be better to take a bath later. Ling Su carried his spear and walked to Tang Tian's side. "Hey, what are you looking at?" Currently, Tang Tian looked to be in a sorry state, but in Xiaqing's eyes, the figure of a martial artist who was determined to train bitterly, who had a big heart, who had given up all the pleasures of life, was so clear, so majestic. Ling Su rushed over at this time. The ground was trembling and the momentum was extremely terrifying. Ling Su followed the mud wall of the sword village and rushed back and forth, After a few rounds, the pressure on the crumbling mud wall immediately disappeared. Suddenly, a soft hand passed over a handkerchief. Tang Tian clenched his teeth and cursed, floating in the rain. The stone gravel beast king only felt the pressure suddenly increase. Just at this time, Xie Qingwan suddenly noticed the figure in the rain moving and exclaimed, "Master Tang is moving." His own claw technique was proficient in breaking through fortifications. With this claw, the stone gravel beast king's body could not help but sway. Xie Qing muttered to himself, his eyes filled with fanatical worship. Hey hey hey! Lingsu, how can you be like this? Xie Qing looked at the lonely figure in the rain, his eyes filled with admiration and said, Senior Tang truly has a firm martial heart. In such a torrential rain, he is enlightened and forgets himself. He is truly a role model for my generation. Even those stone gravel beasts that were not afraid of death, all moved aside. If they were not careful, they would be trapped in the battlefield and immediately be smashed into pieces. He did not hold back at all. In truth, with his current attainments in the fire scythe ghost claw, he could not hold back. Every attack was made with all his might. The rhythm of the battle was so fast that he completely relied on his instincts. A martial artist should be like this. My body can't move. The spear was like a shooting star, red embellished with raging flames, silver hair draped over his shoulders, gold-threaded white robe. He stood there like a statue, not moving an inch. Ling Su was stunned for a moment and then burst out laughing. Ha! The muscles on his body were as taut as steel. He was actually unable to relax. The pitiful Tang Tian immediately became a drowned rat. The girl's voice was gentle like water with a tinge of shyness. Spear techniques were originally proficient in fighting and killing on the battlefield. He was like a killing god. Everywhere he went, people would fall and horses would fall. It was rare for him to be able to make a comeback. Even Ling Su felt that he had exceeded his usual standards. Tang Tian's eyes revealed a look of excitement, the fighting intent in his chest becoming more and more intense. He stared fiercely at Ling Su, his eyes spewing fire. Ling Su's stomach was about to cramp from laughing, but his face maintained his composure. That's right, he is that kind of person. He is wholeheartedly focused on martial arts and worships bitter training. When you guys prepare food for him, it must be clear soup with little water, especially not a bit of oil, and cannot have meat. Half a steamed bun, a bowl of cold water, that is enough. Chapter 206. Wah, quickly look, is there me? Tang Tian heard that there was such a fun thing and immediately became excited. Xie Qing looked at Tang Tian's expression. It did not look fake, but he felt weird. Master was so strong, how could he not know such common sense? Tang Tian impatiently poured his true power into the card. You guys did not move because of this? Tang Tian could not help but ask. Haha, just lifting a finger. You don't have to worry about it. Tang Tian put his hands on his waist and laughed out loud. He was humble, but his face was full of pride. This is me and Ling Su? Tang Tian pointed at the silver carriage and little man in the light beam, his eyes lit up, full of joy. It's the stone gravel beast king. Xie Qing's face was covered with frost, full of worry. The stone gravel beast king is rarely seen. I never thought that there would be one here. Without the beast king, the stone gravel beasts are just a group of stupid beasts. With the beast king, it would be dangerous. But luckily Master took action. If not, the village would have been in trouble. Xie Qing's smile became even more bitter, but it was obvious that he agreed. He patiently explained, yes, the Heaven's Road list is the most authoritative list, but only Heaven's Road grade martial artists can be listed on it. The Heaven's Road list was created by the collaboration of Cepheus Constellation and Cassiopeia Constellation. They gathered information from the immortal martial dojos all over Heaven's Road, according to the realm, martial techniques, battle results, to create the list. Heaven's Road list? Tang Tian's eyes lit up, full of curiosity. What is that? Is it the ranking of the experts? The Corvus Gold was a metal lump of different sizes. Its entire body was dark gray. On the surface there were many gold spots, but it felt abnormally light. Guardian of the Sword? Tang Tian was stunned. It was the first time he heard of such a term. The Heaven's Road list, that was the battlefield of the geniuses and had nothing to do with him. He was just a poor boy in a poor sword village in a poor mountain valley. Tang Tian did not even think of asking for payment, and he could tell the village was extremely poor. The houses were all short and broken. His eyes fell on a small pile of metal in the warehouse and he was very interested. This is Corvus gold? Behind the village stood a lone peak, casting a shadow, causing the sword village to be shrouded in a layer of sadness. The martial artists of the Honorable Martial Alliance would often be in the wilderness, where one would not be able to buy immortal martial news. Although the Honorable Martial Plate's teleportation was expensive, but to the rich it was nothing. Tang Tian immediately thought of Sai Lei and straightforwardly said, I just happen to have a mechanical engineer friend, then I will take it all. The Honorable Martial Brand seller had all sorts of strange items, which left a deep impression on Tang Tian. The faces of the villagers all turned white and on Xiaqing's face, fear surfaced. Guodong became famous very early. About 10 years ago he became a Heaven's Road grade martial artist. Xiaqing bit his lips, and 7 years ago he fought his way into the top 10,000 of the Heaven's Road list. Since then he has never dropped out of the Heaven Road list. He is now ranked 9,928. What a light metal. When Xiaqing said that his face flushed red. Where is the Immortal Martial Dojo? Tang Tian's heart was itching. Recently his strength had increased greatly, and he should have stepped into the Heaven's Road grade, then wouldn't his name be able to appear in front of the entire world? On everyone's faces there were still remnants of sadness, but at that moment, everyone did not care about it and worked hard. The mud wall protecting the sword village had collapsed in many places, and the villagers needed to quickly reinforce the wall, so that when the stone gravel beasts came, they would have something to rely on. When Tang Tian crawled out of his bed he walked out of his room and looked at the messy sword village. He could not help but be speechless. He then remembered Ghost Claw's skinny body, but it contained a surprising amount of power. What's the matter? Xiaqing's gaze suddenly became as sharp as a sword. Are the stone gravel beasts coming again? Xiaqing sighed in his heart. In the past he was also filled with fighting spirit and ambition, but reality made him understand he was just an ordinary person far from being a genius. A little fart ranked in the top 10,000, dared to be so arrogant? Humph humph. It had already been 3 days since the soul-stirring battle, but to the sword village, it did not signify the end. Many of the doors of the houses were hung with black muslin. Tang Tian knew that meant that someone in the family had died. The sword light aura dissipated and fell back into Xiaqing's hands. Is it that very steep mountain? Tang Tian could not help but be surprised. The mountain peak was towering, extremely precipitous, like a sword pointing to the sky. A silver sword-shaped card, on it was written the word, Gua. He had not paid attention to the Honorable Martial Plate for a long time. If it was not training, then it was fighting. Whatever Honorable Martial Alliance had long been thrown to the back of his mind. Xiaqing laughed bitterly. It has something to do with the back mountain that Master just mentioned. I'm not any master, just call me Tian. Tang Tian blushed with shame. He then asked curiously, you guys built the mud wall, is it to defend against the stone gravel beasts? He did not expect that there would be so many people selling and the price was rather cheap. Tang Tian did not say anything and bought the latest issue. Master has to go to the Immortal Martial School to buy a specialized Immortal Martial news, then you will know. Xiaqing introduced, there will be a lot of news about Heaven's Road, any experts appearing out of nowhere, which aristocratic families and which constellations geniuses have recently done something big. There will be an introduction. If Master wants to understand more about Heaven's Road, the Immortal Martial News is a good choice. Thinking about that, Tang Tian immediately bid farewell to Xiaqing, rushed back to his room, and immediately injected true power into the Honorable Martial Plate. Tang Tian was poor, but the Immortal Martial News was more interesting to him. Xiaqing and the villager's face changed. Both of their gazes could not help but look at Tang Tian. Well, if that's the case, it could not be better. Mechanical engineer? Tang Tian's face was blank. I've never heard of it. Once a Heaven's Road grade martial artist made a move, it would at least cost a few 100,000 star coins. That was the market price. Very quickly, a blue card with Cepheus constellation and Cassiopeia constellation appeared in Tang Tian's Honorable Martial Plate. Only someone like Master could be linked to the Immortal Martial News. Xiaqing's heart was filled with envy. It was originally Master's spoils of war. Xiaqing blushed. It's really. The sky blue card was rather beautiful. Tang Tian's arrival caused a commotion among the villagers, and very quickly someone reported to Xiaqing. Xiaqing immediately jumped down and said embarrassedly, "Master, why did you come here? It's too dirty and messy here." What was his rank? So curious. No. The villager ran too quickly and was somewhat out of breath and said intermittently, "Sword order. Big brother Qing, look at this sword order." Xiaqing's weathered face could not help but reveal a helpless smile. But in truth, no one has ever seen any treasured sword. Ever since I was young, I have been searching for treasured swords on that mountain, and dug 3 feet deep, but did not find a single trace of it. None of our ancestors have ever seen a treasured sword, and we all suspect the duty that was passed down is actually real or fake. Xiaqing shook his head. Our village is too secluded. There are no immortal martial dojos. If Master wants to buy immortal martial news, you have to go to a big city. I have not paid attention to such matters for a long time. Xiaqing slapped his forehead. That's right, Master, please follow me. Xiaqing brought Tang Tian to a warehouse, opened it and said gratefully, "These Corvus gold were all cleared out the last time. These are Master's spoils of war. The village is too poor, there is nothing to thank Master, it's really." He injected true power into the sword order, and a ray of light shot out from the sword order. In the light, a luxurious silver carriage, a silver-haired young man and an extremely sloppy-looking young man stood side by side in front of the carriage. Tang Tian, who was initially curious upon hearing the voice, immediately frowned and became unhappy. Who is this fellow? What a big tone. Then this time, Tang Tian was taken aback. Sounds very powerful. Tang Tian's eyes lit up as he listened. The honorable martial plate had accumulated a lot of points. He had a certain amount of points every month until now. It was not a small amount. But at the moment he could not care about anything else and hurriedly went to see if there was any news of immortal martial news. As for Guodong, who was he? When Tang Tian found Xiaqing, he was bare-chested, carrying a huge piece of wood, continuously pounding the mud wall. Xiaqing laughed bitterly. Usually the stone-gravel beasts would never attack the village, they are very stupid. The mud wall is only to prevent the beasts. Fire Crow Executioner, Guo Family Sword Village's Sword Master Guodong. Xiaqing's face gradually regained his calmness, but deep in his eyes, there was still a trace of fear. Yes. Xiaqing explained, that mountain peak is called Stone Sword Peak. The ancestors have always passed down. The mountain is suppressing a treasured sword with a long history. And the mission of my Xia family is to guard this treasured sword. Don't mind it. Tang Tian was suddenly curious. Why don't you guys change a location? I see that the surrounding terrain is very flat, there is no danger to defend, and it doesn't seem to be on the main road. Why don't you guys move to the back of the mountain? I see that the mountain is steep, easy to defend and hard to attack. Just at this time a villager suddenly stumbled in. Brother Qing, bad news. Bad news. Xiaqing sighed. This is a long story. Our Xia family is the guardian of the sword. Hearing Xiaqing's words, Tang Tian was greatly disappointed. Suddenly he had an idea. Didn't he have the honorable martial plate? The pitiful Tang Tian did not have the strength to find trouble with Ling Su. He laid on the bed for a full 3 days before recovering. This deeply reminded him, with his current true power, to use the fire scythe Ghost Claw without restraint. His body could not take it. Sword order? Xiaqing's gaze suddenly congealed. Anyone who has seen this carriage and this person, quickly report. If there is anyone who does not report, the entire village will be implicated. Not even the chickens and dogs will be spared. Just at this time suddenly, a murderous and ruthless voice came out from the sword order. Xiaqing saw Tang Tian's expression, and knew that it was Tang Tian's first time coming into contact with Corvus gold, and smiled and introduced, "Yes. We locals have no use for Corvus gold, it is basically bought by merchants. It is said that mechanical engineers like it, we usually use it to exchange for rations. The quality of this Corvus gold is not bad. If Master has a friend who is a mechanical engineer, maybe it will be useful. If you sell it, it is not worth much. Who knows, maybe it is sold inside." Guo family sword order. Xiaqing's face changed and muttered to himself, who provoked Guodong this time? Chapter 207. The Xia family, the guardian of the sword. They were not only guarding the legendary treasured sword, they were guarding the sword in their own hearts. But hearing the words, guardian of the sword, The fear in the villager's eyes gradually disappeared, his trembling legs also stopped, his gaze became resolute. Brother Qing is right, no matter what, we cannot bring disgrace to these 3 words. Really, a genius like me should be the focus of attention. Not long after he walked out, he suddenly ran in with a flustered expression. Brother Qing, Guolin brought a group of people and are heading towards our village. Tang Tian's mouth was wide open, looking at the words in front of him that were like a waterfall. He was dumbfounded. It was just a small card, but the amount of information it contained exceeded Tang Tian's imagination. All of their faces were brimming with indescribable joy. Almost everyone had forgotten about Guolin. Guardian Heart Sword. Xiaqing sighed in his heart. This time with the Guo family sword village, he was afraid that they would not rest until one of them was dead. But there was no way out. His heart was calm. The words he said was not a scheme but his true thoughts. Guolin's eyes widened. He suddenly thought of the rumors regarding the guardian of the sword. He had always thought that the rumors were fake. Never did he expect that this group of Xia family were actually the guardian of the sword. Tang Tian snorted. He must definitely catch up to Xia. His entire body was filled with energy. A smile and fighting spirit surfaced on his face. Guolin's gaze landed on the silver carriage, his face revealing a look of joy, but immediately his face sunk. He laughed sinisterly. Xiaqing, how dare you? You actually dare to go against the sword order? Your entire Xia family will be buried with you. They were very clear what kind of person Guodong was. Guodong was cold and emotionless. He killed people like flies. Since he had said in the sword order, leave no one alive, then, Guolin. Xiaqing's face changed. He said softly, you go think of a way to hold them back for a while. In the Pegasus carriage, Xiaqing only found the coachman. He immediately asked, are the 2 masters here? Tia Shangguan, the treasure is the immortal crown. The secret treasures belonging to the immortal throne are fully recovering, and the immortal crown is gradually awakening. The sneer on Guolin's face gradually froze. He felt uneasy and said in a stern voice, do you all want to die with this guy? Think about it carefully. Where are your loved ones? Don't be impulsive. The villager nodded heavily. I'll pass down the order. The villagers were in an uproar. In the past, Yun village had flourished for a time and the population was flourishing. However, they had angered Guodong and as a result their entire clan was annihilated. Now all that was left of the Cloud Village was a wasteland and wild grass. Under the efforts of the 2 great constellations, the Immortal Martial Network had become the strongest intelligence center in the world. It was because of their powerful intelligence-gathering capabilities that the Immortal Martial Sect gradually became a colossus that could contend against the 12 ecliptic palaces. Tang Tian was shocked. He actually saw Chia's name on it. Tang Tian was like he was injected with chicken blood. He began to frantically search for Chia's news in the vast ocean of news. Xiaqing nodded his head, his eyes filled with killing intent. At most we will risk our lives. Our Xia family sword village still has swords in our hands. That's right. Although the Xia family has declined, we cannot lose our face to meet our ancestors. He then turned to the other villagers and shouted, don't be deceived by Xiaqing. Our ancestors' sword order is very clear. If anyone dares to harbor a fugitive, the entire village will be implicated. If you know what's good for you now, I will treat it as if nothing has happened. If our ancestor is really angry, then the Yun village in the past will be your role model. Just at this time, footsteps suddenly came from behind. The cry of the guardian heart sword that had disappeared for 300 years had actually appeared in Xiaqing's hands today. The Heavens Road list had already become the most authoritative list in everyone's hearts. But to Tang Tian it was definitely a terrible thing. It was just 2 short sentences, but Tang Tian treated it as a treasure. He greedily read every single word over and over again. Although he always believed that nothing would happen to Chia, but to see Chia's news, his heart was filled with joy. The coachman said, the 2 masters are in closed-door cultivation. Xiaqing turned to look and his face changed. Guolin brought a group of people and rushed over aggressively. At the front of the group was the villager that was just sent. He was tied up, his entire body was covered in wounds and blood. Xiaqing shook his head. His expression had already regained his calmness. He said, the Xia family sword village has guarded the sword for 700 years. We can die. We can die. But we will never do anything that is ungrateful. The name of our ancestors cannot be disgraced. The sword in our hands would rather break than bend. I will count to 3. Whoever doesn't make a move will die. Guo Lin's heart became even more uneasy. This made him shout, "Under our ancestors' sword there has never been a survivor." Xiaqing immediately rushed towards Tang Tian and the rest. No one was afraid. No one was afraid. Oh. Brother Qing has trained in the cry of the Guardian Heart Sword. Oh my God, the cry of the Guardian Heart Sword. After flipping through the waiting list, he still could not find his own name. Countless people, for the sake of a name on the list, had shed their blood. In many people's eyes, the vast and distant Heaven's Road was just the names on the Immortal martial news. That scene, just thinking about it, made the villagers tremble. Their legs trembled uncontrollably. This bunch of people don't know what's good for them. I am such a brilliant expert and they actually don't know anything about it. Humph, seems like their standards are limited. Xiaqing said calmly, "If not for Master, we would already be dead. We have already died once. Even if our entire village were to die, it would be the same as before. We are the guardians of the sword. If we were to do something that goes against our morals, how would we have the face to meet our ancestors in the underworld?" "Closed-door cultivation?" Xiaqing exclaimed. His face was as white as paper. To go into closed-door cultivation at this time, it was over. Just as the sword hummed, all the villagers of the Xia family sword village raised their swords and gathered over. In the blink of an eye, the villagers had surrounded Guo Lin and the rest. Especially when they saw the villagers who were covered in wounds and blood, their eyes turned red. Right. The villagers did not dare to dawdle. They flew over. His thoughts were clear. The sword in his hand seemed to be responding to him. It hummed and trembled. Today's training will be doubled. On the contrary, Xiaqing's face was calm. His heart was indescribably calm. He could feel that the sword in his hand was resonating with his calm heart. Xiaqing knew that it would not be easy. The killing intent in his chest grew. He suddenly waved his sword. The sword hums could be heard from far away. Tang Tian muttered. His gaze swept back and forth. He did not miss a single word. Tang Tian's face did not look good. The villagers started to shout. The fear on their faces had disappeared. What replaced it was pride. It was as though they had been asleep for a long time. "What do we do?" The villager who reported the news looked at Xiaqing. His eyes were filled with fear. It had been 300 years. The Xia family finally had someone who had mastered the cry of the Guardian Heart Sword. Xia was ranked 9,563. Guo Lin's mouth revealed a sneer. He wanted to let Xiaqing see. At the crucial moment, nothing was more important than his own life. Cry of the Guardian Heart Sword, Xiezi Tianxing. His spirit was roused. He started to search. Xiaqing's face was filled with ridicule. It was so glaring. He struggled hard in the shocking amount of news. Finally, he found the Heaven's Road list. Xiaqing's face darkened. His eyes were filled with killing intent. "Falin, you dare to make a move on my Xia family sword village. We are the guardians of the sword." "Pu family. What is that?" Guo Lin saw the fear on the faces of the villagers and immediately calmed himself down and sneered. "Xiaqing has the intention of harboring a fugitive. Whoever is able to take Xiaqing down, not only will I let bygones be bygones, I will also make a great contribution. I will personally report to the old ancestor and will definitely reward you. Godlike young lad. Go go go." The other villagers were attracted by the sword hums in Xiaqing's hand. The surroundings quietened down. The hums of the sword became clearer. He was too clear of the villagers. They were cowardly and selfish. They were easily frightened. Everyone felt their blood boiling. They could not help but grip the sword in their hands tightly. His face changed. "Chia." Tang Tian did not know that the news from the 2 constellations was the most authoritative news in the entire Heaven's Road. Every day there would be a huge amount of news. The Immortal Martial School from the various constellations would gather. Countless of people would filter and verify the information. The amount of news would naturally be huge. Tang Tian then searched for the Heaven's Road list. Could be there. After all, he was not famous. He had to search carefully. He could not miss it. Then he started to look for his name. But to no avail. The entire list did not have his name. His heart was calm. Xiaqing was enlightened. He had been stuck in the realm for a long time. Xiaqing calmed down. He lowered his voice. Don't spread the news. No one is allowed to leave the village. This is the cry of the Guardian Sword. Guardians of the Sword. The power of the Xia family had disappeared a long time ago. But the Xia family had a saying. Every single member of the Xia family was familiar with it. Xia had actually made it into the top 10,000. The Xia family villagers who had been silent for a long time suddenly burst into an uproar. Everyone's faces were filled with uncontrollable joy. Very quickly he found Guodong. He was ranked 9,928. Guolin's face changed. Xiaqing, you don't want to live anymore. We came to the Xia family sword village. Old ancestor knows about it. The entire place was silent. Suddenly a sneer came out. Chia Shangguan. Rank 9,563. Tang Tian was about to throw the immortal martial news away. Suddenly he saw a name from the corner of his eyes. He stopped. This damned piece of news. It did not even have his own name. How blind. The villagers heard Xiaqing's words. The fear in their eyes grew. They wanted to say something but stopped. Finally, in an unassuming corner there was a small piece of news. The cry of the Guardian Sword. It was a sign that the Guardian Sword realm had reached the next level. Chapter 208. Suddenly, a low hoarse voice came out from afar. Then are we going to watch the villagers die? Ling Su retorted without holding back. Roaring, he pounced towards Xiaqing. The lady in black was silent for a while, then said, the stone gravel beasts are Earth planet spirit beasts, and can move underground without any hindrance, although their speed underground is very slow. The place where they are unable to approach is where the treasured sword is. The old man listened attentively, his expressionless face exposed a look of praise. Such a beautiful sword cry. If he is given time, his future will be limitless. The lady in black was speechless, she bit her lips tightly to the point that it turned white. Xiaqing waited with rapt attention, the long sword in his hand, continuously vibrating, the sword cry never stopping. Xiaqing's pupils constricted, the stone gravel beast king. That was the stone gravel beast king that fought with Tang Tian that day. Xiaqing, who had just broken through, was not afraid, his wrist flicked, the long sword carrying the buzzing sound thrusting out. He was determined if he could survive this time he would not leave a single person in the Xia family sword village. Ling Su was startled, but his gaze was immediately attracted to Flamingo. I know him. The old man nodded, his empty eye sockets like a piece of emptiness, his hoarse voice seemed to be floating in the emptiness. Fire Crow Executioner. He. Tang Tian's face was innocent. Am I that kind of person? The wave of air was like a hurricane exploding out in all directions. Seeing the mountain full of stone gravel beasts like a tide, surging into the Xia family sword village, the lady in black's face behind the mask revealed a look of shock. Beside her was a blind old man sitting in a wheelchair, a middle-aged man pushing the wheelchair from behind. Thinking about the previous encounter, her mood became extremely bad. She had spent countless of energy to find the clues to the Lyra treasury, but she did not expect that it would benefit those two assholes. Bing! Just at this time a villager stumbled over, his face full of fear. Stone gravel beasts. The stone gravel beasts are here. Bang bang bang. Let me go. Ling Su stared angrily. You cold-blooded fellow, how can you watch them get killed by the stone gravel beasts? The black-clothed woman remained silent. Why wouldn't I? The old man asked. What an ingenious method, the old man praised lightly. Waves of air kept flashing with them as the center. Every time the Earth Affinity True Power and the Guardian Heart Sword clashed, there would be countless of ripples of energy. Killing intent surged in his heart as he quietly snuck over. Then why did you stop me? Ling Su's eyes widened. The stone gravel beasts were like a tide, causing people's scalps to go numb. Of course not. Tang Tian said with a face full of righteousness. As long as you alone, you can help them stabilize the situation. I'll wait for an opportunity from behind, and drag out the bastard behind these stone gravel beasts. The woman in black said hatefully, It's a pity that we met the Honorable Martial Alliance. Our plan is ruined. A light aura flashed past the stone gravel beast king's brown eyes. Its metal fist was infused with Earth Affinity True Power, striking towards Xiaqing. Tang Tian said proudly, "What a godlike young man with fiery eyes. With that kind of brain of yours, you will never understand." "Are you sick today?" Ling Su looked suspiciously at Tang Tian. "Or are you planning something bad again?" Guolin was scared silly. Until now he still could not understand why the Xie Sword Village people were so fearless. The lady in black trembled, her eyes widened and said angrily, "You investigated me?" Suddenly, ding, a steel fist blocked his sword. Xiaqing's eyes turned red and shouted, "All the men of the Xie family bring up the rear. Xiaowan, bring the rest and retreat to the back of the mountain." The stone gravel beast king's intelligence was high, seeing that Xiaqing, who was defeated by it a few days ago, was actually on par with it. It was enraged and its ferocious nature erupted. "Head to this godlike young man, a mount is simply a small problem." Tang Tian, in front of Ling Su's suspicious gaze, took out Flamingo and generously said, "I'll give it to you." "You'll give him time?" the lady in black asked. Bing suddenly appeared beside Tang Tian. "Why did you think of a mount?" "Yes," Ling Su said with certainty. She immediately explained, "After a few hundred years the soil around the treasured sword will be changed by the power of the treasured sword, and the stone gravel beasts will not be able to get close." "Has the Xie village been breached?" the old man suddenly asked. His voice was hoarse and dry, extremely unpleasant to hear. The lady in black did not dare to say more. The old man in front of her had a fickle temperament, and was a true demon who killed without blinking. And the other party had investigated her, which made her even more fearful. The light sound of the sword, even though it was so far away, could still be heard clearly. Tang Tian rolled his eyes and looked at Ling Su as though he was looking at an idiot. "Can't you see that there are people behind the group of stone gravel beasts?" To avoid the stone gravel beasts, Tang Tian came out from the back of the village, took a big detour, and headed towards the back of the stone gravel beasts. These people were the main culprits. The lady in black's face changed. A formless pressure suddenly caused her to be unable to breathe. She forced a smile. "Don't worry, blind elder, the Onyx Soul Horse's information is definitely not wrong." Xiaqing's heart was indescribably sorrowful, but he knew it was not the time to be sad. He pointed his sword at Guolin and said in a deep voice, "All of you attack together. If you guys can survive, I will spare your lives." The old man was skinny, his eyes were blind, and on his knees was an old Eru. A very powerful fellow. Bing's poker face was gloomy. "We will know once we touch them. They will definitely not be far away." But this question was quickly thrown to the back of his head and he asked Bing suspiciously, "Uncle, you said the person commanding the stone gravel beasts, who is it?" In the last battle, Tang Tian had noticed Ling Su's fighting style. Tang Tian's intuition was extremely sharp. He could feel that Ling Su's attack rhythm had some delay. Logically, with Ling Su's strength, such a delay would definitely not appear. After that, Tang Tian then realized the spear technique that Ling Su used that day was slightly different from usual. "Honorable Martial Alliance's people?" the old man said indifferently, "You want to eat alone, don't blame others." He suddenly released two weird cuckoo sounds, causing the lady in black to jump in fright. Not long after, suddenly a few figures entered his vision. Xie family sword village. All the men who could hold a sword, all had red eyes, roaring as they rushed towards the stone gravel beast wave. The old man suddenly let out a light sound. Pai Pa quivered and immediately replied, "The mud wall has already been broken, the stone gravel beasts have already entered the village." Waves after waves of energy formed a storm, sweeping across the battlefield. "I heard that the ancient spear techniques all have special mounts, do you know that?" Tang Tian asked. He said to himself, "The last time I met two outstanding young men, they actually did not appear this time, so weird. Why do you want to use the stone gravel beast?" The old man ignored her anger and asked. "Relax, if we can really find that sword, that drop of blood will belong to you." The old man said indifferently, "For your sister to have an elder sister like you, her life is good." Tang Tian stared angrily. "Then I'll take it back." Guolin's face was pale, both his legs were white, but Xiaqing's sword tip was pointed at his throat. That threatening cold intent caused him to wake up. His face changed, he clenched his teeth. "All right." They were all alarmed from their training state. The moment the sword and fist clashed, a formless ripple suddenly exploded out. The old man shook his head but very straightforwardly replied, "I don't know." Before everyone could react, they heard a loud bang. The unfinished mud wall in a moment broke into pieces. A few stone gravel beasts the size of small mountains, as though they were breaking dry weeds, rushed into the village. Inside the Pegasus silver carriage, Tang Tian pulled Ling Su, who was preparing to rush out. The two clashing figures attracted the attention of the entire battlefield. They were evenly matched. But the scales of the battlefield were quickly tilting towards the stone gravel beasts. The power of the Xie Sword Village's villagers was unable to stop the tide of stone gravel beasts. Now that he had the Pegasus silver carriage, Flamingo was idle in his hands, so he asked. The lady in black bit her lips and suddenly said, "This is Guodong's territory." He seemed to be moved and also seemed to be sighing. How did you know?" Ling Su was surprised and immediately said, "Mounts are not as simple as you think, and that toy is very expensive. I can't afford to play with it." If Tang Tian saw the lady in black, he would definitely recognize her. This lady was the onyx soul horse that he and Jing Hao met. Tang Tian's spirit was roused. With that, he jumped down from the Pegasus silver carriage, and from the back of the village he quietly slipped out. Finally, the Xie Sword village that had existed for 700 years had it come to an end. After thinking about it carefully, Tang Tian realized Ling Su's attacking style was not consistent, because he lacked a mount. The first thing Tang Tian thought of was the bronze mechanical ostrich that was modified into Flamingo. Ling Su laughed out loud, flipped up and urged Flamingo like a gust of wind. He rushed out of the carriage. A robust figure shuttled back and forth among the stone gravel beasts. Every sword would cause a stone gravel beast to fall. Before he finished, a rumbling sound came from afar, causing the ground to tremble like a sieve. "I hope your information is accurate," the old man said indifferently. Tang Tian was eager to try, bursting with confidence. Such a difficult task can only be handed over to a godlike young lad, only then can it be completed. Everyone quietened down. Guolin's heart jumped. Could it be that the old ancestor had come? "I heard you found the Lyra treasury?" the old man suddenly asked. Tang Tian did not know what was good, but he did. All the stone gravel beasts that were as big as hills were swept by the wave, and all fell to the left and right. Xie Qing's sword was like the wind. The sound of the sword ringing was like a gentle tide lingering in the ears. His empty eye sockets looked towards the direction of the Xie Sword village. The lady in black noticed the old man's strange look and immediately followed his gaze. She had just arrived, although the old man did not say it clearly, but she could tell the previous mission was not successful. Chapter 209. In the blink of an eye, Ling Su had already rushed to the mud wall. Flamingo soared into the sky. Ling Su's vision suddenly widened. The entire battlefield was in his eyes. An indescribable heroic spirit was like a raging flame burning every part of his body. He used all his strength to grip the silver spear in his hand. His left palm lightly caressed Flamingo's head. "I swear to help anyone who asks me for help. I swear not to harm any women." Ling Su jumped up and down a few times, and the stone gravel beasts around the mud wall were all cleared. The young man asked curiously, could it be that uncle already knew? The knights of the ancient times carried their spears like this, fearlessly under the sound of the horn, trampling on the enemies in front of them. The mechanical beast under him was of superior quality. It was definitely something he had never seen before. People only knew he had been blind since he was young, but his training talent was outstanding and he was proficient in music. Until one time he accidentally heard a low and hoarse eru, and immediately fell in love with this instrument. "Teacher, little Su is still not as good as you, but little Su will definitely follow in your footsteps and work hard to walk down." With Ling Su's help, the situation immediately stabilized. Ling Su was invincible, rushing back and forth a few times. The pressure on the villagers immediately decreased. He did not know why, but he pulled the strings of the eru. Everyone was stunned by the sudden appearance of Ling Su. And Xiao Yu was only 19 years old. Even those famous geniuses in the Immortal martial news, Xiao Yu was not inferior. When the silver spear in Ling Su's hand pierced through the third stone gravel beast, the first stone gravel beast finally fell to the ground. His strings were filled with sorrow, causing people to be unable to extricate themselves. "Uncle, what kind of treasured sword is it?" Guiyu's eyes were filled with curiosity. Suddenly his gaze congealed. A fiery red and silver white figure, like a sharp spear, pierced into the group of stone gravel beasts. I don't know either. Guodong smiled, then regained his cool. But for the Xie family to protect it for 700 years, it is definitely an extraordinary treasured sword. A warm aura rose from his heart. It was like his teacher's scent. Ling Su had always felt that his teacher had a unique scent, and now he finally knew what his teacher's scent was. Faith. Boom. Xiaqing, who was fighting with the stone gravel beast king, calmed down. The two masters had finally made their move. The combat power Ling Su displayed was even more astonishing than the last time. The scenery in his field of vision shook violently, but Ling Su remained unmoved. He had never married, and his only nephew was no different from his own son. All these years he had endured the loneliness of the sword village, all for Xiaoyu. At this moment Ling Su had an extremely bold idea. The unprecedented contentment caused the fighting intent in Ling Su's body to be completely ignited. With a thought, Flamingo, who was sprinting at high speed, turned around and charged towards the mud wall. Her long silver hair fluttered in the wind, and her orange-red eyes burned with a raging fire. What about Guolin and the others? Guiyu couldn't help but ask as he looked at Guolin, who was covered in wounds and struggling bitterly on the battlefield. The black cloak fluttered in the wind, and the dark red fire crow embroidered on the cloak looked as though it had come alive. Ling Su charge. Flamingo landed heavily on the ground. It was small and slender, but the sound of it landing was extremely terrifying. It was like a heavy drum beating on everyone's heart, causing them to tremble. I don't know. Guodong shook his head. He has his channels. But such a method, only he can do it. You have to be careful in the future. Sound-type martial artists have many methods which are unimaginable. Guiyu noticed the change in Guodong's expression and followed Guodong's gaze and exclaimed, "Who is that?" After obtaining Flamingo, Ling Su realized that everything had become simple. He only needed to continuously pull out his spear, unleash his spear. It was extremely easy. Such a high-speed piercing spear to normal martial artists might be a difficult task, but to Ling Su it was not difficult at all. Sorrowful blind cord. Ranked 9900 on the Heaven Road list. The village will take good care of his family. Guodong said coldly. A hint of killing intent surfaced in Guodong's eyes. The stubble on his chin moved and his voice became stern and cold. He is called Sorrowful Blind Cord. The wind blew on his face, whistling beside his ears. His chest was filled with lofty sentiments. That kind and gentle back view appeared in Ling Su's heart. That warm and kind gaze was like shining on his back. Oh. Guiyu was a little disappointed, but he immediately thought of another question. Uncle, who is it? So powerful he can actually control the stone gravel beast. If he wants to attack our village, we can't stop him. Guodong looked at the chaotic battlefield from afar. His expression was indifferent. His thin chin was covered with hard stubble, causing people to think of the sharp antlers on the battlefield, brimming with aggressiveness. Charging to his heart's content and delight, caused the fighting intent in Ling Su's body to soar to the extreme. He only felt that his entire body was enveloped in flames, completely fearless. I swear to help my brothers. I swear to treat my friends with sincerity. I swear to love till death. In the sky, Ling Su, as though he was stepping on flames, his silver hair scattered, the spear in his hands disdainfully, extremely tyrannical. The stone gravel beasts in front of him appeared at an alarming rate. Ling Su's attention was highly concentrated. The spear in his hands always only had one movement, pierce. Beside him a young man stood solemnly. The young man was dressed like Guodong. His face was sickly pale, his eyes were black and bright, his hands were thin and long. There were a few moves in the pointed sea spear, all of which required a mount. But ever since he learned it, Ling Su almost never had the chance to use it. He roamed everywhere, full and hungry, eating in the wind and sleeping in the dew. Where would he find the money to buy a mount? Wild and simple, two completely different styles mixed together, but it was so dangerous and deadly. Don't worry. Guodong's cold face exposed a smile. Very few people know of his weakness, but uncle is coincidentally one of them. Then Guiyu was a little unconfident. You're called Flamingo? That's not a bad name, then let's charge together. It was not the least bit bloated, instead it was exquisite like a work of art, but its strength was abnormally strong. When it ran, it was like a gust of wildfire wind. Break through their entire line of defense. The fiery red and silver interweaved into a magnificent light. It was so beautiful that it made people suffocate, but it was also so dangerous that it made people suffocate. His pointed sea spear had a long history and still retained many of the characteristics of the ancient spear techniques. But because of the high speed and strong impact, the same spear, the power would explosively increase by a few times. Flamingo's slender bird legs bent, the sharp bird claws digging deep into the soil. The Xie family's villagers only felt a gust of fiery red wind brushing past them, and the stone gravel beast in front of them suddenly fell to the ground. His temperament was unreasonable and cold, and he killed people like flies. His most famous incident was the once sensational sorrowful Blood Night. That year he passed by a city. Coincidentally, the place was holding a martial arts competition, where experts gathered. The light brushed past the mud wall, like a pen full of red and silver interweaved glowing paint, smearing along the mud wall. The fiery red and silver interweaved light once again lit up. No one knew his name, everyone called him Blind Cord Old Man. There was very little news about him, and the time he fought his way into the Heaven's Road list was earlier than Guodong. But Xiao Yu did not let him down. Under Guodong's meticulous training, Xiao Yu's strength was already very close to his. This stone sword peak, all these years I have come here countless of times, but I still have not found the treasure sword. Guodong once again looked at the intense battlefield, sighed. The Xie family also does not seem to know the location of the treasure sword, so I am very curious this time, what method will this group of people use to find the treasure sword? Feeling the surging power of Flamingo, Ling Su's heart was extremely excited. Spear techniques came from the battlefield, and the ancient spear techniques were mostly used on the battlefield, and not in individual martial arts competitions. Flamingo immediately transformed into a blazing and violent fiery shadow, swiftly rushing forward. His gaze looked towards the endless stone gravel beasts, his orange pupils surging with fighting intent. Everywhere he passed, the stone gravel beasts fell like wheat being cut down. Ling Su suddenly crouched down. Flamingo seemed to feel his will, suddenly increasing its speed, sweeping past a reckless and wild fiery red. He rarely appeared in front of people, and his battle record was rarely known. But his ranking had never dropped from the Heaven's Road list. His strength could be seen. A thick sadness enveloped the entire city. That night, 109 people committed suicide, including close to 20 martial artists whose strength exceeded the 6th level. His light sigh floated in the wind. Without any fancy, without any unnecessary movements, it was a stab. On a high ground. Suddenly, the words from his teacher's old book flowed in his heart. In the wind, he could not help but to read it out loud. I swear to treat the weak with kindness. I swear to bravely fight against rape. I swear to fight against all wrongdoings. I swear to fight for the defenseless. Flamingo similarly lowered its body. The claws that were deeply embedded in the soil suddenly exerted force. They come with ill intentions. Guodong's voice was like the fire crow on his cloak, cold and demonic. I never thought the secret of Stone Sword Peak would finally be found out. In front of him was flying soil, but Ling Su was not affected at all. He lowered his body, his silver spear leveled, his voice like thunder. Kill. Those assholes hiding behind the scenes must be hiding behind the stone gravel beasts. If he could penetrate through the enemy's defense, then he could definitely force the enemy out. Flamingo charge. Sad. Blind Court. Guiyu opened his eyes wide, stuttering, his sickly pale face exposed a look of shock. Blind Cord Old Man, why is he here? I also accidentally found out. Guodong looked at the young man, his gaze was gentle and warm. This was his nephew and the only reason why he stayed in the Sword Village all these years. Ling Su lowered his body, the silver spear in his hand horizontally behind his back, the fiery red tassel hanging down, like a floating red flame. With a flick of his wrist, using the forward momentum, the spear tip effortlessly pierced into a stone gravel beast's body. Flamingo did not stop, like a gust of blazing fire, swept past the stone gravel beast. Chapter 210. A martial artist on the Heaven's Road list. Just thinking about it made Tang Tian excited. To be able to exchange blows with such a strong martial artist, he would know his own strength and he would know how far his own strength had reached. Guodong's sword actually enveloped everyone. Ling Su was like a red and silver interweaving blade, slicing through tofu. Wherever the silver light shone, the frozen true power would quickly flow again. Tang Tian's fighting intent was boiling, his eyes were bloodshot and he suddenly rushed out. But Ling Su was not the least bit afraid, instead he felt his blood vessels expanding, and his fighting intent was blazing to the point of burning. And now that he had a weapon like Sky Tiger, his fighting intent was even more intense. Are you a coward? Tang Tian's gaze landed on the pale-faced young man. It seemed the sickly young man was a good target to break through. The entire battlefield was disrupted by Ling Su's actions. The stone gravel beast king roared and was about to pounce on Ling Su, but Xiaqing immediately understood Ling Su's intention. The sword in his hand suddenly resonated, the sword aura exploding, tightly coiling around the stone gravel beast king. And, is the spear in your hand trembling? But Tang Tian felt an extremely strange qi, completely ignoring his true power, drilling straight into his arm, and in a moment his right arm was almost frozen. Thinking about the upcoming battle, Bing's heart was filled with anticipation. The previous battle with King Kong made him feel that it was not enough. He was born in the army and his passion for battle was something that ordinary martial artists could not imagine. Is the willpower in your heart still so strong? The moment Tang Tian rushed over, Guodong suddenly felt it. Are you afraid? On the 10m high cliff, the old man in the wheelchair with his empty eye sockets revealed a playful smile. He did not refute Tang Tian's battle plan because it seemed to be very reliable. With Tang Tian's current strength, to be a Terminator was rather difficult. But this rascal's indomitable intuition made him the best candidate to fight. The problem now was how long would it take for the two of them to work together to kill the sickly young man. The oncoming wind suddenly became oppressive and suffocating. The whistling in his ears rumbled like thunder and he couldn't hear anything. He was like a seasoned hunter staring at the prey in front of him, his mind quickly calculating, looking for an opportunity to strike. His vision was so blurry due to the intense shaking caused by the high-speed running, but a carefree smile suddenly appeared on Ling Su's face. His smile was like the sun, like a raging fire. The youth was wild and heroic, the youth was as firm as iron. This was the first expert he had met on the list. The flamingo that was madly sprinting with all its might was like a wild flaming wind in full bloom, while Ling Su on its body was like a cold and sharp blade on a flame. But, Ling Su, are you afraid? Countless dark red frost quickly spread with an indescribable chill. It spread in all directions at an alarming speed. Tang Tian let out a furious roar as he flipped his right palm. His 5 fingers were like hooks, bringing with them a dazzling spark as they went straight for the fire crow sword ray. 5 minutes. Bing thought for a while and said. Tang Tian heaved a sigh of relief. From the corner of his eyes he suddenly saw 2 figures that were like the wind. Bing and Ghost Claw. Suddenly Ling Su's violently shaking vision revealed a few figures. His pupils constricted. What is this? Defeat him. Ooh. Rationality? What is that? Fire Crow Winter. Found you. But his heart was filled with a surging battle intent. Is your dream still shining brightly? Guodong's face changed. He did not think that someone would actually find him so close. Although he was attracted by the tyrannical charging of the flamingo rider, and did not notice, but the strength of the ambusher was definitely not weak. Come, let me see how strong you are. He could see that the opponent was much stronger than him, or even much stronger. Guodong could not help but frown. The opponent was more troublesome than he thought. But to be able to fight his way into the Heaven Road list, he relied on more than just this cold fire crow sword. The opponent's chi was like an unfathomable cold pond, deep and cold. Ling Su actually had a feeling that he did not know where to start. After so many years of wandering and struggling, Ling Su's eyesight was extremely sharp and he was extremely experienced. Who he could provoke, who he could not provoke, he was very clear. He had a bad temper, but he would definitely not provoke opponents that he could not provoke. That was the reason why he was able to live till now. Guodong's eyes constricted. Tang Tian, who was opposite him, pounced towards him again. Ling Su's actions surprised everyone. Uncle, you and Ghost Claw, how long do you think it will take to get rid of that little one? Tang Tian asked. That spear was called Justice Origin Core Pierce. He was about to make his move, but suddenly from the corner of his eyes, he saw 2 figures appearing beside Guiyu and his face changed. But the current Tang Tian was like a raging volcano, spewing out battle intent, boiling blood. Even his bones were burning red steel. As if feeling Ling Su's will, Flamingo suddenly screeched, like a sharp blade piercing through the clouds. It was so decisive that it caused people's hearts to tremble. The surrounding stone gravel beasts were swept by the shock wave. As if they were hit by a heavy hammer, they fell to the ground and quickly became a pile of sand. Weird. Flamingo, will you always be brave and fearless? In a moment, Tang Tian's entire body was covered with a dark red frost. His body was frozen stiff. What made him even more shocked was, he realized that the true power in his body was actually frozen too. Heaven Road List, 9,928 rank. Flamingo, are you also yearning to charge forward? Ling Su's roar reverberated in the wind. The sound of the collision was so light, it was like blowing out a candle. Although Guodong was shocked, he did not panic. Unknowingly, a dark red sword appeared in his hand. The opponent's target was Xiao Yu. Flamingo, go. Guodong did not even look and swung his sword behind him. The dark red sword arc released by the cold fire crow sword was like a fire crow spreading its wings, quietly flying towards Tang Tian. The red-silver flowing light was as straight as a blade. Fire Crow Executioner, Guodong, Heaven Road List 9928 rank. Tang Tian's arrogant face broke into a smile, revealing 2 rows of white teeth. Guodong's mouth curled into a sneer. The cold fire that the cold fire crow sword brought was an extremely cold and evil flame. People without experience would fall for it the first time. A dark red flame appeared on the sword body. And these rascals actually dared to have ideas on Xiao Yu. No wonder he was ranked 9928 on the Heaven Road List. A sword technique, it was indeed powerful. Just as Tang Tian was in shock, the silver martial spirit flame in his body suddenly jumped intensely, releasing a silver-white light. Wherever the dark red frost passed, everything was frozen. 5 minutes, Guodong let out a long whistle. The cold fire crow sword in his hand exploded in flames. The terrifying pressure was like an invisible big hand, instantly enveloping the entire field. The dark red fire crow sword aura spewed out from the sword body, rushing into the sky. Logic told him the current him could not defeat his opponent. That's right, you are not his opponent. A loud explosion instantly resonated through the entire field. The wave of chi was much stronger than before, like a hurricane sweeping across. The blind old man in front of him was definitely someone he could not provoke. If it was in the past, he would definitely turn around and leave. Tang Tian's gaze was fixated on the middle-aged man in the black cloak. The fire crow on the cloak indicated his identity. Guodong was slightly surprised. The opponent's claw technique was actually able to create sparks in the air, which surprised him. But the powerful force that erupted from his fingertips made him even more surprised. This rascal was actually not affected by the cold fire. Heaven and earth lost their color, only the orange eyes were clear. I must defeat him. Those huge stone gravel beasts in front of them were as weak as paper. As if there was a voice shouting in his heart, this caused every cell in Tang Tian's body to tremble with excitement. Once the cold fire entered the meridians, the cold fire would spread like a poison. The silver hair danced wildly, the spear was like a dragon whistling through the air. The roaring airflow in his ears was like thunder isolating everything outside, but it also made the voice in his heart even clearer. Old Crow, now it's the godlike young man's turn to make his move. Flamingo borrowed the momentum, its skinny and tough bird claws, opened its 5 fingers, fiercely digging into the soil. The fiery red figure suddenly rose up, like a reckless angry flame, bringing the silver-haired young man, brazenly pouncing towards the old man on the wheelchair on the cliff. Tang Tian's heart was overwhelmed. It was his first time encountering such a weird chi. Tang Tian not only did not have the slightest bit of fear, but instead became even more excited. To be able to battle with such a strong martial artist, it was such a delightful and exciting thing. But the taste of the cold fire was also not that good. Tang Tian did not pay attention to the battlefield, his attention was all on the 2 people in front of him. He could hear Ling Su's roar, but his state of mind was not distracted at all. In a moment he saw through Tang Tian's intention. The dark red fire crow sword aura dropped down from the sky and exploded. His spirit was roused, his fighting spirit soaring. Tang Tian in battle was the most terrifying. True power freeze. Flamingo, are you thirsting for battle too? Guodong immediately flew into a rage. Guiyu was not only his nephew, he was also his successor. All his hopes were placed on Guiyu. One of Corvus Constellation's silver weapons, Cold Fire Crow Sword. The silver light that filled the sky transformed into a dazzling light spot, suddenly rushing forward. Tang Tian knew that his own strength could not compare to the fierce-looking fellow. However long Bing and Ghost Claw needed to spend to get rid of the sickly young man, he needed to hold him back. With Sky Tiger's uncle Bing, it was like adding wings to a tiger. His strength had increased a step. Adding Ghost Claw, getting rid of the sickly young man should not be a problem. The two enemies were definitely not weak, but with Bing and Ghost Claw as helpers, it was a pity Magic Flute was not around. If not, their chances of winning would be higher. But Tang Tian did not care too much about it. Guodong, who was known as the Fire Crow Executioner, had killed countless people and had rich battle experience. At that time his heart trembled and he knew the danger. Flamingo's eyes lit up with a ray of light. Its speed that was originally like the wind, suddenly increased again. Ling Su, who was on the back of the bird, only felt that the scenery in front of him was flying past, becoming a blurry line. Chapter 211. Guodong relaxed, his gaze landed on Xiaoyu, filled with anticipation. Is this the feeling of sorrow? Almost at the same time, tens of fire lines spewed out, forming a circular fire net around Guodong. The martial technique used by the spirit general was exactly the same as the one that attacked him. Guiyu did not panic, the sword in his hand trembled. A dark red fire crow suddenly flew out from his sword rain, colliding into Ghost Claw's claw shadows. Soros blind cord. Oh no. After a while his teacher struggled to get up from the pool of blood. He clutched his chest, fresh blood continuously flowing out from his fingertips. He took out a pill and swallowed it. No. Ling Su's eyes were about to pop out. It was the same type of martial technique, but when used by two people the power was completely different. This was enough to prove the two's understanding of martial techniques were not on the same level. Guodong stared coldly at Tang Tian. Although the young man in front of him had astonishing speed, but he lacked a strong offensive method and could not unleash the power of his speed. But Guodong quickly calmed down, the cold fire crow sword in his hand continuously waved out. A dark red ring of fire suddenly spewed out from his feet and quickly spread to the surroundings. Ghost Claw's eyes suddenly burst out a ball of light aura. Both his claws brought out sparks from red to glaring silver. Two blazing rays of light from his two sides quickly converged in front of him. With Ghost Claw's claw strength, this attack actually did not gain any advantage. Xiaqing tried his best not to be affected by the melody. His mind was still clear, but his face was cold. Unknowingly his tears were flowing. Many of the sorrows in his memories were like dusty old things, slowly opening up in front of him. A deep and powerful chord sound suddenly sounded out. The moment the two rays of silver light converged, the transparent sword screen rushed to Ghost Claw, coincidentally clashing with Ghost Claw's claws. But it was not that Tang Tian did not have anything to rely on. Other than his astonishing intuition, his speed was extremely fast. After absorbing the angel blood and dwarf blood, his speed had leaped to the top in a night. And after he broke through to the 6th level, all aspects of his body had a comprehensive increase. The transparent sword in his hand lit up with a dark red flowing flame. That pill was exactly the same as the life-saving pill his teacher had swallowed in the pool of blood. The bowstring moved like flowing water. Guodong felt that he was surrounded by the figure of the other party. Ding ding ding. This is Heaven Road list rank 9,900 strong martial artist. A sound-type martial artist whose strength was even stronger than Guodong. Amidst his admiration, Guodong was relieved. Although the spirit general was powerful, it would not be easy to defeat Xiaoyu with just one spirit general. Teacher's face. Disappointment in his eyes. Endless darkness. Forever reminding him of his pain. His self-exile. Tang Tian did not let his blood get to his head, no matter how fierce his fighting spirit was. Guodong's pupils suddenly dilated. Tang Tian's figure quickly circled around Guodong, but no matter how he waved his claws, this seemingly simple and crude fire net did not move. Ling Su watched in a daze. Even if it was an illusion, he was willing to see this side of his teacher. Guodong immediately looked at Guiyu. A transparent sword screen spewed out from the front of the sword tip and went straight for the ghost claw. Teacher could not believe his eyes as he fell into the pool of blood. A tall and sturdy figure shrouded in the shadows, a voice full of regret sounded out. "Is this the pointed sea spear? Such a pity, I thought it was so strong, but it was unable to satisfy me. But you don't have to worry, I will not disgrace it because it is not worthy of me." The blind cord of sorrow. Suddenly Ling Su was shocked to see a spear tip suddenly emerged from his teacher's chest. Ling Su's spear was actually so slow. Wherever the sword screen passed, the soil flew, a deep and straight ditch with the same speed pushed forward. What a fierce and violent claw technique. Ling Su's vision blurred. He knew this was the opponent's method. He still tried his best to stab forward, but he could not control the sorrow, and it flooded every corner of his heart. The peacock armor made Tang Tian's movements become more agile, and completely made up for Tang Tian's lack of light body techniques. The feathers of the peacock armor constantly changing, Tang Tian felt like he was a fish. No matter which direction he went, he was agile and free. This spirit general was definitely not a nobody. Guiyu's expression was solemn and he bellowed, "Zero cut." But that figure did not hear his voice and directly turned and left. Who? Xiao Yu's bright black eyes opened wide. In his slender right hand, there was a thin long sword. This sword was as thin as a cicada's wing, close to transparent. Buzz. The long sword in front of his face suddenly slashed down. Endless sorrow instantly welled up in his heart. His speed had reached an extremely astonishing level. Tang Tian displayed his speed to the fullest. The increase in speed, other than allowing him to take the initiative, more importantly, the rhythm of the battle became faster. The faster the rhythm of the battle, the less time people had to think. Like this, his advantage in the aspect of intuition could be displayed to the fullest. Ghost Claw's eyes widened. The 10 skinny fingers suddenly brought about countless dazzling sparks and claw shadows. The mournful screams lingering in the ears. Teacher's figure was so clear that it was dangerous to touch. Ling Su muttered to himself, tears flowing down uncontrollably. Between the sword tip and the ghost claw, suddenly a blazing light aura burst out, the strength overflowing. The two swords just now made Tang Tian understand the opponent's strength was relatively strong. Just by relying on his fire scythe ghost claw, which had not been trained to the grandmaster level, it was impossible to injure Guodong. Guiyu's body emitted a faint undulation. The air was like it was being roasted, causing Guiyu's figure to look somewhat blurry. The fiery red long sword was raised vertically in front of his eyes, his expression solemn. He bellowed, "Zero cut." The spear tip lit up with a dazzling silver aura, the only star in the night sky. Miraculously, the blood stopped flowing, but teacher had aged overnight. Guodong was moved, grandmaster-level martial technique. The flames dissipated, a dark red fire crow appeared behind Guiyu. The fire crow's body was dark red, spreading its wings, its black pupils were like two bottomless black holes. The moment the melody sounded, Ling Su's heart was suddenly gripped by an invisible hand. Ling Su felt as though he was struck by lightning. Bang. Zero cut. Not a bad name. Blind cord old man did not feel anything and continued to pull the arrow's bow. A low and sorrowful sound flowed out from his fingers. Time seemed to freeze. Ling Su's tyrannical spear actually slowed down bit by bit. His own life was exchanged for his teacher's life. His teacher's familiar aging and coughing day after day made Ling Su finally understand why his teacher was always so sickly. Tang Tian's fire scythe ghost claw brought out a bright spark. He pushed his speed to the maximum. In the blink of an eye, Guodong was surrounded by silver afterimages and bright sparks. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had clashed more than 10 times. Countless astonishing strength chi exploded from the two of them. Too scary. When he saw Sky Tiger, he heaved a sigh of relief. The standard of mechanical martial artists were not high. But the skinny spirit general attracted Guodong's attention. The moment blind cord old man pulled the arrow's bow, the entire battlefield quietened down. Regardless of whether it was the stone gravel beasts or the villagers, they all stopped. It was not that he had never seen martial artists with good light body techniques, but he was still shocked by Tang Tian's speed. His tears were like a broken dam, pouring down in torrents. It was a vast expanse of whiteness. The sorrowful melody enveloped the battlefield. The dazzling light aura suddenly lit up, engulfing Ghost Claw and Guiyu's body. In his hand there was a pill. He chewed it, mixed it with the wine and fed it to the baby. The dark red flowing flames suddenly burst out from the sword body, in a moment engulfing Guiyu's body. You guys are underestimating Xiaoyu. Tang Tian spun around Guodong, the fire scythe Ghost Claw coming from all directions clawing at Guodong. Every time the fire crow and fire scythe Ghost Claw clashed, the two of them would tremble. The lady in black was overwhelmed with shock. Her body was completely immobilized, not even a finger could move. She felt her body being controlled, her tears uncontrollably flowed down. The stone gravel beasts stood there in a daze and all the villagers had tears streaming down their faces, filled with sorrow. Guodong's eyes suddenly lit up. He already knew that Xiaoyu had a killing technique, but he had never seen Xiaoyu use it before. When he asked about Xiaoyu, he would always open his eyes wide with a face of innocence. The flames beneath his feet suddenly spouted out a line of fire. The line of fire circled around Guodong's body, and once again drilled into the flames beneath his feet. With a twist of his wrist, the long sword pierced out without any smoke or fire chi. No. This is not real. This is not real. But in the snow forest, the teacher suddenly stopped, seeing an infant. The infant's entire body was injured, his little face was already frozen. The teacher carried the infant, touched him for a while and suddenly laughed. Little rascal, you must live well. This is the last pill, don't let me lose a few years of my life for nothing. Guodong was secretly surprised, such a fast speed. Xiaqing looked at the figure on the wheelchair in shock. He finally recognized who the old man was. Bang bang bang. He was the blind cord old man who was known as the sorrowful blind cord. This spear was as though it pierced through the sticky air. No. You asshole. You scum. Ling Su's face was covered in tears, roaring at the top of his lungs. Ding. She was really looking forward to it. It was like a nightmare. This feeling caused her heart to be filled with fear. Her expression was blank. Guiyu's sickly pale face surfaced a tinge of red. His black eyes, however, was filled with killing intent. The opponent's tenacity far exceeded his imagination. Teacher. Xiao Su misses you. The concentrated sounds of impact, continuously hitting the fire net, countless sparks flying. It was a beautiful sight. Guodong's eyes lit up. Such a ferocious claw technique, it was really rare. Blind cord old man's face revealed a deep sorrow. His empty eye sockets, 2 streaks of tears rolled down. The lady in black's mind was blank. Ling Su's ferocious charge was like a ray of lightning, directly piercing in front of her. She did not even have the time to think of resisting. Chapter 212. Guiyu's gaze suddenly turned cold, the sword in his hand once again raised. Who exactly is it? Entering the Heaven Road list, becoming one of the top 10,000 martial artists in the entire Heaven's Road, allowing his name to appear in front of billions of people. Glory, money, treasures, martial techniques, everything would be within his reach. This was the dream of countless martial artists. Guiyu's eyes suddenly lit up. Ghost Claw's figure in front of him was gradually fading. In mid-air, fresh blood splattered. Ling Su's eyes were tightly shut, unconscious. This battle was more daunting than dangerous to Xiaoyu. It was a good training. The remaining mechanical martial artist was completely unable to pose a threat to Xiaoyu. From 9901 to 10,000, this 100 was known as the 100 battle zone. Poker Uncle. When Magic Flute returned to the recruit barracks, he could not help but exclaim, there was actually not a single person here. The melodious sound of the flute made the lady in black indescribably comfortable. The killing intent in her heart dissipated. She actually could not muster up a bit of fighting intent. Even though he was far away, Magic Flute could still see Ling Su, who was thrusting his spear towards Blind Man. As though he was hit by a heavy hammer, he spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards. The fire scythe Ghost Claw on his fingertips quietly changed. Guodong, who had been watching the battle from the fire net, finally heaved a sigh of relief. This spirit general's strength was indeed very strong. But Xiaoyu's sword was even stronger. Magic Flute thought in a daze, a faint sorrow and sigh rising in his eyes. Especially when Magic Flute appeared when Guiyu and Ghost Claw were at the peak of their battle. The moment the flute sounded, he stole everyone's limelight. In the sky full of silver light, the slender figure quietly stood there. The fire net in front of him in Tang Tian's eyes became more and more hateful. His speed became even faster, the fire scythe ghost claw in his hands no longer holding back. Blind cord old man on the wheelchair exclaimed. The bowstring in his hands stopped, his empty eye sockets looking towards the direction of the flute sound. Tang Tian's eyes were red and he roared in his heart. Tang Tian, how can you be so weak? Guodong's face revealed a gratified look. In the sky full of silver light, he slightly lowered his head, the copper flute in his hands, placed it to his lips. Why was his fire scythe ghost claw so weak? What a powerful claw technique. The flamingo used its beak to grab the unconscious Ling Su and ran with all its might. What a sad voice. His life must have been very unfortunate. Tang Tian knew that the fire scythe ghost claw was the pride of Ghost Claw, and was entrusted to him. There was nothing that could make fire scythe ghost claw feel worse than being defeated in a one-on-one fight. Even if Ghost Claw's power had not fully recovered, Ghost Claw's level had not recovered. Roar fire scythe ghost claw. At this moment he was burning with rage and all his apprehensions were gone. Guodong looked at Guiyu through the fire net, feeling extremely gratified. He had spent so much time and energy to finally groom Xiaoyu. Suddenly Guodong sensed something and exclaimed in surprise. Wishful thinking. The stone gravel beast seemed to have awoken and started to attack the flamingo. Just based on the rankings, blind cord old man's power was definitely stronger than Guodong. He had to get rid of the sound-type martial artist first. The most taboo thing for a sound-type martial artist was to let the enemy get close to them. This sound-type martial artist was stupid and actually ran so close to them it was too stupid. But the sound-type martial artist needed to be taken care of. But Guiyu was still immersed in the victory of killing the opponent's powerful spirit general. Then what do we do? Sai Lei said bitterly, Uncle Pokerface is not here. Magic Flute's gaze was deep and he sighed like the wind. Guiyu's mouth curled into a smile. The mechanical martial artist protecting the sound-type martial artist, this strategy was rather correct. But a mechanical martial artist, how could he stop him? Me. Magic Flute pointed at his own face, stunned. After a while he laughed. I'm sorry, I never knew how to control a mechanical weapon. As for the helpless Tang Tian who was circling the fire net, Guodong did not care at all. From time to time, sparks would fly, but in Guodong's eyes, it was just for show. In the next second his pupils suddenly dilated. Finished, he slowly walked forward. On the long waiting list, everyone had the potential to fight their way into the Heaven Road list. Their eyes were red, thinking of all sorts of ways, continuously trying to challenge the experts on the Heaven Road list, hoping to be promoted. She knew how powerful they were, and her heart was overwhelmed with shock. But the black-robed lady did not expect to actually force his way in, a sound-type martial artist whose strength was not inferior to blind cord old man. The sorrow on blind cord old man's face deepened, the bowstring in his hand suddenly sank, and within the sorrow, there was a hint of killing intent. Such a powerful sound-type martial artist. Suddenly, a blue figure rushed in front of Magic Flute. It was the mechanical martial artist. Suave and elegant figure, made Sai Lei's eyes light up with countless stars. Sai Lei's face was full of infatuation, both hands clasped in front of his chest. Wow, uncle is so handsome. His figure became faster and faster, the true power at his fingertips increasing. This kind of martial technique that looked good but was useless, did not have any value. Flamingo nimbly jumped, bang, the rock fist smashed into the position it was just standing at, mud flying everywhere. He did not expect to meet such a powerful person the first time using it. These days the standard of the mechanical martial artists were not high. At this moment, Ghost Claw's heart was dead. Although Guodong's ranking in the 100 battle zone had changed, but he had never dropped out of the Heaven's Road list, his strength could be imagined. In the entire Heaven's Road list, there was not a single mechanical martial artist. It could be seen how far the mechanical martial artists had fallen. He tilted his head, his clear eyes looking at the little black dot in the distance. His gaze landed on the blind man in the wheelchair. Something happened? When Magic Flute appeared by Tang Tian's side, his first reaction was not because of the explosion of silver light from Ghost Claw and Guiyu, nor was it because of the fire web that Tang Tian was unable to break, but because of the mournful sound of the eru. Ghost Claw's figure faded, his eyes coldly looked at Guiyu, not saying a word. In the blink of an eye, Flamingo was surrounded by danger. And blind cord old man who was pinned at 9900 was even more thought-provoking. This ranking meant that Immortal Marshall believed that his strength was enough to leave the 100 battle zone. Magic Flute's face revealed a smile. He warmly said, "Please do not worry, I will go in exchange for him. He has already returned to the encampment." The moment Ghost Claw disappeared, Tang Tian's heart suddenly surged with anger towards himself. The smile on Magic Flute's face disappeared. He walked towards the light door. The lady in black who was shocked suddenly saw blind cord old man from the corner of her eyes. She could not help but be stunned. Guiyu's pale face became even redder. He tightly pursed his lips, his bright black eyes staring straight at Ghost Claw, his hand holding the sword trembling slightly. Magic Flute appeared out of nowhere, causing everyone to be shocked. More true power. Fire Scythe Ghost Claw. Roar Fire Scythe Ghost Claw. Magic Flute admired for a while and commented, "Very beautiful." This also led to the fact that in any era strong sound-type martial artists were extremely rare. As for the sound-type spirit general, that's great. Sai Lei excitedly jumped up, her ponytail drawing a beautiful arc in the air. "Uncle Flute is the best." Blind cord old man sat there without moving, quietly listening. The stone gravel beasts that were as dumb as wooden chickens suddenly had a terrifying red light in their eyes. They roared continuously, and one of the stone gravel beasts fiercely punched towards Flamingo. He was full of confidence in the zero form. Keeping them alive was just giving Xiaoyu a chance to fight. This was a very unique ranking. Suddenly, a clear and melodious flute sound leisurely floated over. The sound of the flute was like a gust of warm wind, blowing across the entire battlefield. The sword aura cut through the air, bringing along a sharp whistle, slashing towards Magic Flute. The silver light in the sky dissipated. Ghost Claw at this moment must be very disappointed. "Move your claws faster." "Very beautiful." Sai Lei's eyebrows immediately frowned. She did not like this kind of evaluation. She mumbled, "Not beautiful but powerful. Uncle Magic Flute, help me try." "Damn it." When Ghost Claw's figure completely disappeared, Guiyu could not help but reveal a victorious smile. The remaining mechanical martial artist was completely nothing to worry about. And blind cord old man's display of strength was completely worthy of his ranking. Her brain was moving quickly. She was thinking which sound-type martial artist could contend against blind cord old man. A figure panting with his red eyes stared fiercely at her. Sound-type martial artists were a relatively unorthodox type of martial artist, because sound-type martial artists, other than needing to have training talent, they also needed to be proficient in music and have some understanding of music. Xiao Yu's future would be brighter than hers. Guodong's stubbled face was cold. He had enough confidence to kill him as long as he wanted to attack. As an Onyx Soul Horse, her understanding of the Heaven Road list was much deeper than the average martial artist. If one had a little research on the Heaven Road list, they would realize blind cord old man's ranking for the past 10 years did not change at all. 9,900. All the stone gravel beasts stopped moving. The red light in their eyes started to dim. They were both young people, but Xiao Yu's strength was obviously much higher than Tang Tian. To Guodong, Xiao Yu already had the qualifications to compete in the Heaven Road List 100 battle zone. Blind cord old man's string music was like a nightmare, but this string of flute music seemed to have a magical power. It was able to touch people's hearts. The competition in the 100 battle zone was intense. It was the Heaven Road List strongest battle zone. It was also the fastest and most intense battle zone. Flamingo took the opportunity to rush out a large distance. Magic Flute smiled. He stood up, his tall figure and warm smile. It was unspeakable elegance. He nodded to Sai Lei, smiled. "I'm leaving, please be careful." The surrounding fire net suddenly collapsed, became a sky full of sparks. His entire arm was numb, the blood in his chest churning. His zero slash. Ever since the day he comprehended it, he had never used it in battle. Zero slash from today onwards must be famous throughout the world. The transparent sword in his hand vibrated. Buzzing lightly, the sword slashed towards Magic Flute, who was concentrating on playing. Ling Su, who was flying backwards, looked like he was about to fall into the group of stone gravel beasts. Suddenly a red figure rushed out. It was Flamingo. Previously, because he had used the fire scythe ghost claw too much, his entire body was injured. It made Tang Tian hold back. The crane body true power in his body was surging like never before. But the collision between the two killing techniques did not change because of his flute music. It's finally done. Sai Lei looked at the new mechanical weapon in front of him, his face revealing a satisfied look. Tang Tian, who felt the same, was extremely angry. His attention was unprecedentedly focused. All his attention was on the fire net in front of him and the finger-type fire scythe ghost claw. Chapter 213. This luxurious equipment, it was impossible for Guodong not to be jealous. Without thinking, he roared. The transparent sword in his hand was enveloped in dark red flames and swung out. Not good. Ftermage. Who? Guodong stared in disbelief at Tang Tian's 10 fingers that were emitting sparks. But once he lost hope, the incomplete martial spirit would face extinction and completely disappear. Tang Tian gasped for breath. The true power in his body was boiling hot. With red eyes, he was like an angry bull staring at Guodong. He looked straight at Guodong, straightened his back, and started to wear the bleeding cat blade scythe in an orderly manner. Usually when Tang Tian trained, he was bare-handed and did not wear any claw equipment. Such a scary brat. But Gui was overjoyed. Once this thought came out, he could not stop it from occupying his mind. No matter what. Guodong was overwhelmed with shock. He had never seen such a freak to be able to improve so quickly in a battle. After wearing the bleeding cat blade scythe, the power of the fire scythe gloves increased exponentially. The bleeding cat blade scythe was indeed a silver weapon of Lynx constellation. It had the effect of a blood scythe. Every claw would definitely have a blood scythe. Ghost Claw, you must see it. Ghost Claw, you must not lose hope. Tang Tian also raised his head, raising his face. Tang Tian gasped for breath, opened his eyes wide and stared fiercely at Guodong. His hands were naturally hanging by his side. His 10 fingers were like 10 fireworks, constantly emitting dazzling sparks. This brat actually broke through the fire net. Fire scythe ghost claw. This was his own fire scythe ghost claw. Everyone could not help but raise their heads, looking at the terrifying black light descending from the sky. The sparkling gloves with sparks. It was breathtakingly beautiful. Tang Tian only had this thought in his mind. He did not feel the sparks on his 10 fingers. The boiling crane true power poured into his 10 fingers, continuously producing sparks. That is the pride that you have never given up. Tang Tian shouted loudly in his heart. Unknowingly, he felt very sad. In his heart, Ghost Claw was both a teacher and a friend, like a relative and not just a spirit general. There was a soft cry, and the sharp sound of claws clashing against each other was like a wild cat opening its eyes in the dark night to reveal a trace of dark red. This guy, how did he do it? The battle between Tang Tian and Guodong was extremely intense. The increase in strength wasn't huge, but Guodong had never seen such a thing happen in a single battle in his rich combat career. He suddenly made his move. But even so, he quickly suppressed Tang Tian, and it was a complete suppression. Guodong's true power had reached the 7th level, and against Tang Tian, who had just broken through to the 6th level, he had the absolute advantage. He had immersed himself in sword arts for decades and was much more accomplished than Tang Tian in claw arts. Guiyu only saw a blur in front of him, and Sky Tiger instantly appeared in front of him. He was immediately overwhelmed with shock so fast. What really surprised him was that the resistance coming from the tip of the sword was continuously getting stronger. Bing lowered his eyes, and Sky Tiger opened up its blue feathered wings. Suddenly, the wind behind him caused his smile to freeze, and at the same time, Sky Tiger that was slashed in front of him gradually dimmed down. Silver armor. Especially the shiny gloves that Tang Tian had just comprehended, compared to Ghost Claw's fire scythe Ghost Claw, there was an obvious difference. Guodong did not show any weakness. The cold fire on the cold fire crow sword was sinister and strange, making it hard for people to defend against, and his attainments in the fire crow sword was extremely profound. The might of every move was rather astonishing. Fire scythe gloves. The wind from the fist brushed past the back of his head, causing the back of his head to go numb, and his heart was overwhelmed with shock. Guiyu stared blankly at the unharmed Sky Tiger in front of him. I must see it. From now on, this technique will be called Fire Scythe Gloves. Armor, a type of treasure amongst treasures compared to treasures, it was not inferior. Is it finally coming? End the battle quickly. Impossible. His eyes were so bright that it could pierce through people's hearts. He had imparted the Fire Crow sword to Guiyu, and Guiyu's enlightenment on Form 0 was completely different from his. So strong. Seeing the light aura of the fire scythe ghost claw, Guiyu did not have time to think and fiercely pounced forward. Who? Tang Tian knew, saying that his level had dropped, his vitality had not recovered, his martial spirit was incomplete. To Ghost Claw, it was meaningless. This arrogant and cold man could not tolerate any failure. Bing looked at Guiyu, his emotions complicated. Guiyu's breathtaking slash, even he felt that it was breathtaking, but he did not expect that slash could actually cause Ghost Claw's figure to disappear. Guodong's expression was solemn, his wrist shook. The cold fire left the sword and soared into the sky, like a fire crow spreading its wings. Buzz. Without waiting for him to get up, a chain of attacks followed. He immediately chuckled. This sword is called the Cold Fire Crow Sword, Corvus Constellation's Silver Treasures. Treasures versus treasures, it's very fair. The bleeding cat blade scythe in his hand trembled lightly, like a cat in the night, hungry and thirsty. Tang Tian's equipment made him drool. He simply could not understand where did Tang Tian get so many treasures from. Thinking about how he had spent so much effort just to get a Cold Fire Crow sword. Looking at Tang Tian again, the bleeding cat blade scythe was Lynx Constellation's treasures. And what made him even more unimaginable was the silver armor. In Tang Tian's mind, Ghost Claw's lonely, withered and crooked back view appeared. He was a man who had placed all of his pride, glory and passion for life into this martial skill. He knew this was a huge blow to Ghost Claw. It was beyond imagination. Guodong was also a decisive person. Once he had made up his mind, he did not hesitate. The Cold Fire Crow sword in his hand suddenly burst into flames. The cold fire suddenly sprang up, like a fire crow spreading its wings, but it was extremely cold. Clang. Guodong almost cried out in shock. In the exchange just now, he had already felt out Tang Tian's strength. With Tang Tian's strength, he definitely could not break through his own fire net. The fire scythe and blood scythe interweaved. Every claw of Tang Tian was extremely powerful. Tang Tian realized that the sparks that were formed from the true power were much stronger than the sparks that were formed from friction in the air. The fire scythe gloves meant that Tang Tian already had his own understanding of the fire scythe ghost claw. Tang Tian's heart suddenly calmed down, his red eyes regained their calmness. That cold light aura seeped out with a terrifying aura. A silent shout resonated in Tang Tian's heart. Ghost Claw, let me prove the power of the fire scythe Ghost Claw. But burning true power, it consumed a lot of true power, so Tang Tian controlled the speed of burning true power and formed the sparks gloves. Bing's heart was filled with killing intent. He knew that Ghost Claw had always been proud, so Bing never interfered with Ghost Claw's battles. Ghost Claw, Fire Scythe Ghost Claw can definitely defeat them. The shock in Guodong's heart was extremely intense. Tang Tian's raised face was as hard as a rock. The arrogance in between his eyebrows carried a hint of madness. The turbulent true power unreservedly spewed out from his fingertips. In a moment it was like a small fountain of sparks. The dazzling sparks gloves flickered continuously. But on his face there was no fear. Then let's end this quickly. Ghost Claw's martial spirit was incomplete. Logically speaking, with such a serious incomplete martial spirit, it was impossible for it to appear. But in Ghost Claw's martial spirit, there was a strong obsession and unwillingness, which allowed him to once again appear. The terrifying deep vibrations filled the entire field. Even Magic Flute's flute sounds were suppressed. The ground beneath his feet trembled violently. The terrifying formless undulations from the fire crow guillotine dissipated. The cold fire drew an arc in the sky. Suddenly diving down, the cold fire fluttered in the flames. A black and red-eyed fire crow was faintly discernible. The red cold pupils, so cold that it caused people's hearts to palpitate, opened its wings, suffused with a cold sharp aura like a black guillotine. Why did he have the feeling that his comrade had died? Guodong was not surprised, that was normal. To an average martial artist practicing the same martial technique, maybe it would be very similar, but to a true expert the same martial technique, the understanding and interpretation would be completely different. Tang Tian panted when he was attacking the fire net with all his might. The The true power in his body had broken through a critical point. The crane body energy produced a miraculous reaction. The fine crane true power gushed out. Under the control of the fire scythe ghost claw, it formed countless sparks. The fire crow executioner's strongest killing technique. Fire crow guillotine. Tang Tian's sporadic counterattacks started to make him feel danger. That's impossible. With a roar, Tang Tian's eyes were red, his face was sinister. He was not afraid of death, he welcomed the suffocating black light and pounced forward. Guodong took a deep breath. He was already unsure if he continued to suppress Tang Tian, would he be able to crush him? The blazing light aura brewed in his 10 fingers, converging. Guodong could naturally see Tang Tian and Ghost Claw were using the same martial technique. But the same martial technique in different hands had a completely different feeling. A dark red flame aura slashed towards Sky Tiger's waist. Tang Tian did not say a word. The fire scythe gloves once again appeared on the bleeding cat blade scythe. But at this time he took out the bleeding cat blade scythe. Suddenly, Guiyu felt as though he was suddenly in a storm. All around him were the attacks of the enemy. He could not breathe at all. The distance between both parties was too close. This slash, Sky Tiger was unable to dodge and took the full brunt of it. The sky seemed to darken in an instant. The spewing sparks slowly congealed in the blink of an eye. A layer of fine sparks formed a sparks net enveloping Tang Tian's palm. Ghost Claw, don't be discouraged. In terms of strength, even if Tang Tian had just comprehended the fire scythe gloves, he would not be able to contend with Guodong, who was ranked 9928 on the Heaven Road list. But adding the power of the silver peacock armor and the 2 blood meridians, Tang Tian was actually able to block Guodong's attack. Tang Tian was not willing for Ghost Claw to die, not at all. Guodong's pupils constricted and said, "Bleeding cat blade scythe. Lynx Constellation's silver treasure weapon." The crane body energy in Tang Tian's body surged unceasingly, as though there was a majestic white crane, continuously flapping its wings, the surging true power surging unceasingly. Guodong's sword body immediately pressed down, pointing straight at Tang Tian and bellowed, "Kill! This brat is improving." His sword just now was actually blocked by the mechanical martial artist in front of him. It was not strange for him to suppress Tang Tian. Such a heavy blow, whether or not Ghost Claw could recover, he was not sure. The man who had not perfected this martial technique to his satisfaction, and was unwilling to die. Chapter 214. Fire Scythe Ghost Claw. This was the radiance of Fire Scythe Ghost Claw. When the surging true power entered Tang Tian's head through his neck, Tang Tian's body suddenly froze, his bloodshot eyes lost focus, but in his pupils there was a snow-white crane silhouette. 10 stars flew out from his fingertips, revolving in the air, transforming into 10 rays of light. The rays of light that flew out converged into 10 sharp lights like 10 fireflies flying towards the black light. Bang bang bang. The dazzling silver light blossomed from Tang Tian's 10 fingers. The 10 blazing balls of light were like 10 shining stars. Ghost Claw stared blankly. Ghost Claw's skinny face exposed a warm smile. All the knots and stubbornness in his heart, all disappeared. In his heart, there was only unparalleled satisfaction and unprecedented relief. The ball of light enveloping Tang Tian's fingers, with a speed visible to the naked eye, changed from a fiery red to a blazing silver white. Ghost Claw's mouth suddenly exposed a bitter smile. Slowly, the smile spread like a ripple, until it became a hearty laugh. Trembling with his dantian as the center, extended to every corner of his body. If Tang Tian was not wearing any clothes, he would see the trembling ripple like a ripple with his dantian as the center, spreading in all directions. Is this true power? No. But the only regrettable thing was, these martial techniques did not have any top-notch martial techniques. It's still not enough. Please accept my final gift. Tang Tian's eyes suddenly widened. That Fire Scythe Ghost Claw, card on the martial technique wall, had an additional layer of faint light aura. Godlike young lad, you must do your best. Young lad, I will not be able to fight side by side with you in the future. Behind the light door, Ghost Claw's thin figure floated in the air. Tang Tian could not hold it in anymore. Tears flowed out of his eyes and he bawled. Bloom Demon King Blazing Firefly. A golden light scar congealed in the air, did not dissipate. After a second, the light scar transformed into a door. True power continuously flowed into the ball of light, incessantly burning. Godlike young man, thank you. He watched in a daze as Tang Tian roared, looked at Tang Tian's fire scythe gloves, looked at the dazzling ball of light in Tang Tian's hand, and looked at Tang Tian rushing towards the dark light like a moth flying into a flame. Ghost Claw, why can't I feel your chi? Impossible. Looking at the martial technique wall behind the light door, Ghost Claw raised his finger, touching the fire scythe Ghost Claw card. For some reason Tang Tian did not feel the slightest joy of victory. Seeing the radiance of the fire scythe Ghost Claw. In a forgotten corner of the Aquarius martial cabinet, a small bronze crane suddenly lit up with a misty light. That was the bronze crane that Tang Tian had obtained in Three Spirits City. His body trembled violently like a sieve. Tang Tian was also hit by the arrow. His body stiffened and his pupils dilated. This was, young man, I saw it all. Behind the light door there was no one. The fire crow guillotine was getting closer and closer. The despair in Tang Tian's heart became more and more intense. He knew that his move could definitely defeat the opponent, but the prerequisite was that he had enough true power. Behind the light door there were many gold cards arranged neatly. Crane hung the sword back on his waist, tidied up his clothes with a solemn expression. He walked into the light door. Godlike young man, you must do your best. The surging true power burned wantonly at his fingertips. The crane true power in his body was stirred to the maximum. His 5 fingers that were hanging by his side opened up. Every finger was wrapped with a blazing red ball of light. The true power flowed along his arms, through his wrists and through all 10 fingers. Seeing the 10 blazing rays of light flying out, Tang Tian's heart suddenly calmed down. Crane held onto the sword with both hands and slowly slashed down. Young man, I am truly grateful to you. Crane's expression was solemn. Holding onto the sword with both hands, he raised it up high and bellowed. Tang Tian's eyes opened wide. The wind whistled in his ears. In his eyes, there was only the fire crow guillotine that was descending from the sky. The true power that could topple the mountains and overturn the seas erupted from his dantian without any warning. Like a surging flood, it swept through the meridians in his body, whistling forward. Guodong was hit hard, his body flew out, spitting out blood. His eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Tang Tian, well done. Every ball of fire red light was like a red star. When he opened up his 10 fingers, they were like 10 stars. Bang! Guodong's face changed. In a panic, he used the cold fire crow sword to block in front of him. 3 light auras floated onto the sword blade. Pa pa pa, the cold fire crow sword exploded into 3 pieces. So, the burning of true power was the profoundness of the fire scythe Ghost Claw. Tang Tian roared like a wild beast. All the true power in his body frantically poured into his 10 fingers. He did not care about the damage it would cause to his body. Time seemed to freeze. The stars in front of him, the sparks that were spewing out. Compared to the sparks that were produced from friction in the air, the power was much stronger. Even though he was far away, he could still feel the astonishing chi from the dancing sparks on Tang Tian's palms. Ghost Claw, did you see that? Bing even talked about the other use of the cross door, which was to deduce martial techniques. He suddenly stopped talking. His skinny fingers clenched into a fist. His wooden face was filled with happiness. He faced the cross door and said, Tang Tian, well done. The sword in his hand suddenly lit up with a dazzling gold light aura. Crane's face was reflected in it. Guodong activated his true power. His entire body was covered in dark flames. Like a fire crow, he rushed in front of Bing and blocked one of Bing's heavy hammers. He took the chance to save the injured Guiyu. A clear cry of a crane sounded in Tang Tian's mind. Flash fist, minute collapsing fist, Tan Tue scattering vortex. No way. It's called Demon King Blazing Firefly. It's a nice name, right? Come on. He stared blankly at Guodong, who was flying out. Suddenly, a lingering sound came from the wind. Suddenly, Tang Tian's pupils constricted. The true power in his body at such a crucial moment was actually all gone. Suddenly, 3 fireflies flew out from the explosion towards Guodong. True power, all of true power. This was the real fire scythe Ghost Claw. Every time Tang Tian trained in a martial technique and comprehended a killing technique, the martial technique would appear behind the cross door, transforming into a gold card. Currently, the number of cards behind the cross door was not small. That year, the martial technique wall was filled with martial techniques. The fusion of the martial technique cards had formed many new martial techniques. But this fusion required the intervention of a martial spirit. The meridians were like a dried-up riverbed. The lingering sound floated in the air. Tang Tian's face was sinister and fierce. His eyes were bloodshot. He only had one thought in his mind. "I'm coming." Crane was startled. Immediately, his face revealed a look of joy. He grabbed the sword. Following that, his face revealed a look of disbelief. He muttered, "Heavenly Light Pellet Crane." He actually obtained the Heavenly Light Pellet Crane. "But young man, before I disappear, please accept my last bit of power." Not knowing why, Tang Tian's nose felt sour. He bit his lips tightly. Looking at the 10 lights flying in front of him, they were like shooting stars. I must let Ghost Claw see it." Tang Tian did not chase. He stood there in a daze. His heart was filled with sorrow. Tang Tian suddenly regained his senses. The white crane dancing in front of him had disappeared. The whistling black light was already right in front of him. The sharp tip was pointed at his face. Ghost Claw's figure could be seen with the naked eye. It was fading away. Tang Tian, who had lost his focus, looked as though he was looking at a beautiful white crane dancing in the air. It was as though he was reborn. The gloominess and stupefaction on his face disappeared. His wrinkles smoothed out. His crooked back straightened. "Ha ha ha. I really need to be much stronger." He activated the crane-style chi manual even more frantically. True power. He needed more true power. Tang Tian bit his lips tightly. His gaze was fixated on the black blade that was getting closer. His face did not show any signs of retreat. He continued to activate the crane-style chi manual with all his might. Is that Fire Scythe Ghost Claw? The bronze crane transformed into a green light and entered Tang Tian's body. Although my martial spirit is already dim. Although my obsession is gone. Although I am about to dissipate into mist and wind. Although I am completely liberated. I am about to enter the cycle of reincarnation. After being stunned for a while, Tang Tian was immediately enraged. Crane, who was trekking across the mountains and rivers, suddenly, the sword at his waist trembled violently. Ghost Claw. The 10 lights on his fingertips were dazzling. They were like the brightest stars in the sky. The true power flowed along the dried-up riverbed. It was unstoppable. Tang Tian did not have time to react. Every time the true power passed through a meridian, his body would tremble. Definitely. Ghost Claw's thin figure lit up with a misty light. The light flowed along his fingertips and entered the Fire Scythe Ghost Claw. Under Tang Tian's roar, the Fire Scythe gloves lit up with a dazzling light. The Fire Crow guillotine was trembling. Ghost Claw calmly walked to the back of the light door. "Isn't it beautiful?" Without thinking, the 10 fingers on his palms, which were spread open, suddenly grabbed at that black light. "Young man, thank you. Thank you so much." But the dried-up meridians did not have a drop of true power. Ghost Claw's face suddenly revealed a trace of reluctance. He suddenly shouted, "Godlike young man, you must do your best." "That's right. This is true power." Heavenly Crane from the same origin in the name of Heavenly Crane Constellation open. The blazing heat from his fingertips brought with it an aura that caused people's hearts to palpitate. The 10 lights in the black light got closer and closer. "Ghost Claw, can you see it? But please don't be sad. This incomplete soul of mine is already incomparably satisfied." Ghost Claw's gaze landed on that Fire Scythe Ghost Claw card that just appeared. Bing had mentioned about the light door. Behind the light door was the martial technique wall. The entire army's martial techniques were all on it. But now all these martial techniques had disappeared. That was also why he wanted to teach Tang Tian martial techniques. But he had no way to do so. He could only start training. Tang Tian, whose anger had disappeared, shouted silently in his heart. In the light, Ghost Claw's figure quickly became fainter and fainter. Countless light rays blossomed in front of him. The air in front of him exploded. Countless waves of air swept out from the center of the explosion. Floating in the air was like a withered leaf in the wind. His vision trembled violently. The more true power he ignited, the stronger the power of this technique would be. Not enough, not enough, not enough. Chapter 215. Ling Su's eyes were shut tight, his body curled up into a ball and trembled slightly. Blind-cord old man listened attentively until the sound of the flute disappeared. I am a disciple of the Crane sect, you can call me Crane. Crane still had a faint smile on his face and said politely. Crane glanced at the unconscious Ling Su. A look of surprise flashed past his eyes. It was his first time seeing someone dressed so similarly to him. Godlike young lad, I will definitely do my best. Tang Tian was startled, he immediately rubbed his eyes and the figure in front of him became clearer. That despicable Eru old man. Tang Tian was enraged. The next time I meet him I will definitely beat him up. Tang Tian, who was in a bad mood, stared at Crane. No matter how he looked at him, he was not pleasing to the eye. This fellow actually looked like a sissy like Ling Su. Sissy was the most unlikable. Everyone was shocked and curiously looked at the starry door. What would appear from the starry door? Everyone was shocked by the sudden appearance of the starry door. The black-robed lady's masked face revealed a look of struggle, but she bit her lips and did not object. In truth, she knew that she did not have the power to object. If the Crane sect did not even know the Crane body energy, how could they have any high-quality goods? Magic Flute opened his mouth. He has a heart demon. Tang Tian was stunned and blurted out, Ling Su, quickly come and see, it's your twin brother. He knelt on one knee, both legs landing heavily on the ground. The moment he landed, his body did not move an inch, and a circular wave of qi suddenly swept across the surroundings. The so-called treasures referred to the top-quality treasures of every level of treasures in the constellation. These top-quality treasures compared to the same-level treasures were much stronger. Suddenly, a gentle and polite voice cut in. Hello, may I ask, are you training in the Crane body energy? The Heavenly Light Pellet Crane was a silver treasure of the Heavenly Crane constellation, and was the strongest treasure in the entire Heavenly Crane constellation. The Heavenly Crane constellation was a small constellation, and the only gold treasure was the Crane sword. The 3 silver treasures, naturally, were the top treasures of the entire Heavenly Crane constellation. In the dead silence, Crane's gaze slowly swept across everyone. Crane regained his senses and immediately bowed seriously and said sincerely, My humble sect's Crane body energy has already been lost. I want to find my sect's true inheritance from you. I hope your excellency can fulfill my wish. In the middle of the qi wave, the white-robed Crane was untainted by a speck of dust. Everyone was roused, even blind-cord old man who could not see, tilted his head, his ears slightly trembling, obviously listening attentively. What a strange inner demon, what a strange young man. The black-clothed woman panicked. My lord. He was like a rock, falling rapidly, the strong airflow blowing against him making it hard for him to open his eyes. Stop crying. How could a godlike young man cry? How embarrassing. He looked like a rookie. Bing, who was in the Sky Tiger, had a poker face and immediately relaxed. Stargate. I will definitely do my best. What could be more shocking than the sudden appearance of a starry gate in the sky? Bang. Tang Tian did not even look at Crane, who was descending from the sky. He was still immersed in the sadness of Ghost Claw's disappearance. He who was bawling his eyes out sat on the ground, snot and tears flowing down his face, sobbing and twitching. Tang Tian did not struggle out of the inner demon by himself. It was his inner demon that was constantly eliminating the negative emotions. No. Magic Flute shook his head straightforwardly. Everyone's inner demon can only be struggled out by themselves. This bunch of Crane sect disciples are so disappointing. Tang Tian waved his hand and said loudly, All right, why are you looking for me? Sky Tiger came over and Bing's surprised voice came out from inside. Aya, you really look like him. Only a godlike young man would have the qualifications to be called handsome and suave. The rest were all sissies. If it was any other day, Tang Tian would definitely be very arrogant and proud of himself, but now he was anxious. Is there any way to help Ling Su? When Crane stepped out of the starry door, his expression froze. The gold light opened up, transforming into a starry door. Crane's leg stepped through the starry door. Tang Tian cursed continuously, his expression was sloppy. I can teach you the Crane body energy, but this is something that I have painstakingly comprehended. What can you use to exchange for it? But he quickly retracted his gaze, facing Tang Tian. He shook his head and said, I am sorry, I have nothing to do with him. May I ask, do you train in the Crane body energy? If blind cord old man suddenly changed his mind, then her goal this time would definitely fail. Following that, he waved his fists at the unconscious Ling Su and shouted, "Ling Su, you must be brave. What heart demons? That's all bullshit. Defeat them all. Use it to stab." To be able to activate the heavenly light pellet crane, one must have extremely profound attainments in the crane body energy. That was why Crane did not hesitate to use the power of the crane sword to open the starry door. Everyone stared blankly at the starry door that suddenly appeared in the sky. They were so shocked that they could not speak. The moment the starry door opened, a strange chi instantly enveloped the entire place. His gaze finally landed on Tang Tian. Yes. Magic Flute's gentle voice had a tinge of solemnity. The most common technique used by sound martial artists is to awaken the inner demon. Music naturally has the ability to influence people's hearts, and sound martial artists are even better. They can awaken the inner demon hidden deep in people's hearts. Almost everyone has inner demons, some are obsessions, some are emotions, there are all sorts of them. Usually people will be in a calm and rational state, and the inner demon will usually be suppressed. But suppressing it does not mean that it can be eliminated, and inner demons are hard to eliminate. Once the inner demon awakens, if one is unable to struggle free from it, then it will be dangerous. Inner demon. Tang Tian suddenly raised his head. He sighed softly. What a magical flute sound, it reminds me of Senior Magic Flute who has already passed away. I never thought that I would be able to hear such a heavenly sound. This time it was not a wasted trip. What are you trying to do? Tang Tian looked at Crane with a face of caution. Tang Tian was shocked and jumped up. Ling Su. It's a person. Ah, you're a disciple of the Crane sect. Tang Tian was stunned and then his eyes lit up. Do you have a rank 6 Crane-style Chi Manual Spirit card? What about a rank 7 one? In Tang Tian's dictionary, there was no such word as handsome. Even if there was, it was only for himself. That's right. Magic Flute's eyes flashed a strange look and nodded. But it doesn't seem to be effective on you. Please say it. Crane said seriously. As long as Crane has it or can do it, there's definitely no problem. And the armor was also very special. It was an armor-type treasure that could cover one's entire body. The formation of the armor was far more difficult than other treasures, so its power was also much stronger than normal treasures. Scope. Blind cord old man said indifferently. For this flute song, we won't use our weapons today. Blind cord old man raised his hand, stopping the lady in black from continuing. He said, in this flute song, there's a faint sorrow of parting, a blessing like the sun and time. Do you know time? It's the marks of time. This is a wise man who has experienced the vicissitudes of life. I am not as good as him. After crying, Tang Tian started to regain his courage. Tang Tian was immediately disappointed and mumbled, then what's the use of you? Crane's expression turned sluggish. Tang Tian wiped his tears, his eyes regained his determination and was about to climb up. Suddenly, a white figure appeared in his vision. What's the use of me? Ghost Claw woo woo woo. That was one of the 3 silver treasures of the heavenly crane constellation that had been lost for many years. Every constellation's star treasures were a huge series. They were many in number and were divided into bronze, silver and gold. But Crane did not expect that the opponent would actually obtain the heavenly light pellet crane. But among them there would be some special existences like treasures or armors. But he did not panic and very quickly calmed down. When he was close to the ground, he held onto the crane sword by his waist and shouted, Snow Crane Wings. If not for the heavenly light pellet crane, the crane sword would not have such a strong reaction. Tang Tian muttered to himself, his voice getting louder and louder, his tone becoming more and more determined. This is... The lady in black was dumbstruck, her lips trembled, but she was unable to say the rest of her words. But Tang Tian's heart demon was extremely strange. His heart demon was also sad, lonely, but like him, it was filled with sunshine. Pada pada. A series of footsteps came out from behind. It was Flamingo carrying the unconscious Ling Su running over. Just as they were about to turn and leave, the sky suddenly lit up with a gold light. He suddenly reacted, his face changed, he was high up in the sky, very high up in the sky. Crane shook his head apologetically. I'm sorry, my sect has been declining for a long time. The 6th and higher level crane style chi arts have already been lost. On his back a pair of snow-white crane wings appeared and he suddenly stopped falling. But the cliff far away was empty, blind-cord old man had already left. Every person's heart demon was definitely gloomy, ruthless, vicious, etc. That was also why the heart demon was so scary. Looks like it was a fat sheep. Tang Tian's eyes lit up. He was extremely excited. He was finally about to see his target. After asking around for so long, it was like looking for a needle in a haystack, and the result was as expected. He did not find anything. But Tang Tian reacted. He turned his head, looked at Crane and asked curiously, "Are you Ling Su's older brother or younger brother? The same silver hair, the same white robes, the same sissy. Something is wrong with this field of vision. It seems to be a bit high." Tang Tian and Bing, who had the same thoughts, released a harmless laugh at the same time. Hehe. Magic Flute was deep in thought. A leg stretched out from the starry door in the sky. Magic Flute did not say anything. It was not that the heart demon did not work on Tang Tian. Tang Tian had already sunk into the heart demon at that time. But what Magic Flute did not expect was Tang Tian's heart demon was different from everyone else. "You guys don't even know the crane body energy?" Tang Tian was startled. His heart was even more disappointed. He had already gained enlightenment on the crane body energy a long time ago. He had never felt that the crane body energy was a high-grade item. Never did he expect such a big crane sect to not even know the crane body energy. Tang Tian's interest waned. Tang Tian suddenly remembered the time when he fought with Magic Flute, and suddenly realized, "Don't tell me you used the heart demon the last time?" To him the two of them were too similar. Hehe. Wait a minute. Chapter 216. Suddenly he started to doubt his own conjecture. What Tang Tian could see, Magic Flute could naturally see too. Suddenly a groan sounded out in everyone's ears. The white sword aura, the silhouette of a crane, appeared. Ling Su slowly opened his eyes. The tenacious fighting spirit in his orange pupils was like a raging flame, silently burning. Magic Flute admired Crane a lot. Tang Tian felt that his brain could not calculate it all, but it was definitely a lot. Magic Flute always thought that Tang Tian could not be disturbed by the demons in his heart, was because his heart was pure as the sun. But looking at Tang Tian's face full of sunshine, Magic Flute could not help but shiver. So strong. This brat has some skills. He had already started to consider if he should introduce a Heaven Road grade martial artist employment service, and he only needed to collect money. 3 years, how much money could he earn? "I am willing to work in lieu of payment," Crane suddenly said. Crane laughed bitterly and said honestly, "Heavenly Crane Constellation's 3 great treasured weapons, only one appeared, and that is your heavenly light pellet crane." Tang Tian was enlightened and his spirit was roused. That's right, cash. This brat definitely did not have enough cash. As expected, the older the ginger, the spicier. Uncle Poker one was worth 2. But it was a problem regarding the crane body energy, and he would definitely not retreat. The generations of crane sect disciples could not comprehend the crane body energy. To him, it must be extremely complicated, and Tang Tian must have spent a lot of effort to figure it out. The opponent's speed was so fast that he could not catch it, and it was becoming more and more erratic. Unless this brat, even when he was killing people, his heart was still so pure, to want someone to give it to him for free? Even Crane himself felt that it was not right. "Please pray for your own good, beautiful young man." This was the only chance. Sky Tiger's speed was extremely fast, and Bing was an outstanding mechanical martial artist who could make full use of this point, and very few people would be able to accurately catch Bing's figure in their first move. Crane's expression was calm. The ancient sword in his hand did not leave its sheath and pierced towards the right. Tang Tian blurted out, "This guy works." Suddenly Tang Tian's gaze landed on Magic Flute, who was not far away, and his tone immediately changed. Of course, a powerful uncle like Uncle Flute is rare. The crane sword was the crane sect's inherited sacred object and could not be exchanged. Out of the 3 great treasured weapons of Heavenly Crane Constellation, only the Heavenly Light Pellet Crane had appeared in his hands. "Work in lieu of payment." The blue Sky Tiger spread out its metal arms and Bing's voice came out from inside. "Well, other than this, what other way is there?" Crane suddenly realized that coming to find Tang Tian like this was truly foolish. He had found the person, but he could not find anything to exchange for the crane body energy. I don't have that much money. Crane said honestly. Crane sighed. My sect does not have that much money. With that, Sky Tiger's figure suddenly disappeared. Tang Tian was stunned for a moment before he was pleasantly surprised. You're awake. Bing was also surprised. The Sky Tiger wings slightly expanded, and his speed suddenly increased explosively. A few million star coins, the sect would definitely not be able to take it out. Crane's expression congealed, the ancient sword in his hand seemed to have become heavier, and his movements became much slower, but he still did not unsheath it. Mechanical martial artists could actually be so terrifyingly strong. No problem, you can get your family to send it, we can wait for you for a few days. Bing suddenly said. I've sinned. Using wolf dogs to describe the clan elders is really not appropriate. That's easy. Tang Tian's face looked harmless and his face was filled with a bright smile. First tell me what you have. Then we can discuss the problem of how to trade. The same temperament made Magic Flute, who was also from an aristocratic family, feel a sense of familiarity. Once an expert made a move, it would be obvious. Facing Tang Tian's kick, Crane's rookie nature immediately revealed itself, and he revealed a bitter smile. I also do not know what I can trade. But I definitely cannot give up. No disciple in the Crane sect could surpass him in strength. Even the clan elders who had trained bitterly for decades could only be counted with one's fingers. Bing was extremely interested in this fellow who suddenly fell from the sky. Seeing that he was not courteous, he said in a deep voice. Then I'm coming. Other than his own outstanding talent and hard work, this had something to do with his other inheritance. His mother's inheritance as compared to the Crane sect was much stronger. He was extremely shocked. Although the Crane sect occupied the Heavenly Crane constellation, but the Heavenly Crane constellation was just a declining small constellation, and the Crane sect's wealth was originally pitiful. And because of the decline of the Crane sect was basically isolated from the outside world. The Heavenly Crane constellation used the local currency, and almost no one used star coins. Don't talk about a few million star coins, even if he threw out a few 100,000 star coins, the clan elders in the sect would definitely be like wolf dogs swarming forward. His face finally turned white. More importantly, he was actually able to accurately capture Bing's figure. Magic Flute laughed stiffly and waved his hands, indicating that he did not care. A white sword aura whistled out. That was his heartfelt words. With one look, he could see that Crane had a good background and was definitely not someone that a small family could groom. His every movement displayed elegance and nobility and could not be deceived. He could even guess that Crane had an outstanding mother, and this noble mother was the true hero that groomed such an outstanding young man. Crane took a step forward, holding onto his sword. His white robe was as white as snow, his expression was solemn and bowed slightly. Please make your move. The unhappiness on Tang Tian's face disappeared, and his expression congealed. Crane's sword was truly exquisite. The white sword aura brought along a faint white mist, like the white clouds floating in the mountains. It actually had a sense of otherworldly refinement. Gradually, a layer of sweat appeared on Crane's forehead. The white mist that he spat out congealed and did not dissipate. His expression became even more serious, and his sword became even more sluggish. Magic Flute looked at Tang Tian in a daze. His face that was filled with sunshine did not look fake at all. The sound of the sword aura breaking through the air became even clearer and louder. But Tang Tian did not move, although his arithmetic was terrible, but this did not hinder him from becoming an unscrupulous businessman. As though Crane had grabbed onto his last life-saving straw, he suddenly raised his head and said excitedly, "What method?" Crane's entire body was almost exhausted, but his heart was filled with joy. He took a deep breath and nodded his head. All right. Crane's entire body seemed to be struck by lightning. Tang Tian's face fell, his plan to get rich was foiled and his mood immediately became bad. Then what do I do? Let me say this first, I will definitely not tell you the Crane body energy for free. I spent a lot of effort to figure it out, how can I just tell you for free? Suddenly Sky Tiger's body suddenly stopped moving, and a calm voice came out from inside. All right, you've passed 3 years' time, you need to serve him for 3 years in exchange for the Crane body energy. This huge sum, the only way was to beg his mother or aunt. But This kind of true inheritance of martial techniques for them to be willing to trade was already a huge favor. Since young he had trained in the Crane sect martial techniques and his mother's inheritance, and this was the first time he was in such a difficult situation. He tactfully kept his mouth shut and gave up on the idea of saving the pitiful lamb. If it was just Tang Tian alone it would be easy, but there was still the poker face eyeing him. The pitiful handsome young man would definitely not be able to escape from the clutches of the two of them. Crane's sweat poured down like rain, his entire body was steaming and he clenched his teeth bitterly. Sky Tiger's blurred figure coincidentally appeared in front of the sword aura. Looking at Crane's attire he thought that he was definitely rich. Such a person did not have anything on him, but definitely would not be without money. Bing suddenly opened his mouth. Since there are no treasured weapons and no money, seems like there is only one way. This time Tang Tian's eyebrows really frowned. What treasured weapons and whatnot, he was just saying. His goal was the star coins. This godlike young man was also lacking money. His money had all been thrown into the bottomless pit of Sai Lei mechanical weapons and now he was penniless. The bitter smile on Crane's face became even more serious. He secretly shook his head and threw this unrealistic idea to the back of his head. Blocking someone's path to wealth was equivalent to killing their parents. Tang Tian pretended to be in a difficult position and frowned. I don't have any treasured weapons, this is a little troublesome. Don't tell me you only have star coins? I still prefer treasured weapons, having so many star coins is not that useful. What? You really don't have any treasured weapons? Forget it, then let's use star coins. Magic Flute, who was shocked, quietly moved his feet and moved a few steps away from Tang Tian. He looked at Crane with sympathy, such a good young man, a pity he was about to fall into the clutches of the devil. I am not willing to bring along a burden on the road. It was obvious that Tang Tian, who had fallen into the eyes of money, was extremely dissatisfied. Hey uncle, since you suggested it, then you should test. Only when your strength is about the same, then you will have the qualifications to work in lieu of payment. For the revival of the Crane sect, for his father's dying wish, work in Crane's eyes was nothing. It was just a few million star coins. And it was just fooling around. Tang Tian could see that the sword was a typical Crane sect sword aura, and inside it was the meaning of the Crane dance. Crane faced Tang Tian's bright smile and as expected he did not guard against it. He even retracted his previous prejudice. The muddy leg with a face full of tears and mucus was actually a rather good and cheerful young man. Instead he advised Bing, hey uncle, this kind of person who looks good but is useless, his strength is usually not that good. Crane's eyes darkened. But treasured weapons? Do you have any? The Crane sect is also a big sect. Tang Tian slowed down his tone with a look of consideration for the other party. No matter what, there should be a few treasured weapons. Just as Crane heaved a sigh of relief, Tang Tian raised his eyebrows. But don't you dare use a mere few million star coins to fool me. Crane laughed bitterly. Tang Tian's words could not be refuted. After witnessing Crane's strength, Tang Tian knew that he had earned big this time. It was hard to say for Tang Tian, but Poker Face was a wily old soldier and would definitely not let him go. Tang Tian's heart moved, so the bronze crane was some heavenly light pellet crane. Tang Tian was worried about not knowing the origin and usage of this toy, but he did not expect Crane to deliver itself to him. Tang Tian ran over and threw out his trump card, Martial Spirit Contract. He immediately threw Crane to the side and flew to Ling Su's side. Chapter 217. Anyway, as long as they sat together with Crane, Ling Su and Tang Tian were two country bumpkins. Crane explained politely, to avoid clashing clothes, I think it's better for me to wear black. But who was Tang Tian? Are you able to find out where Guodong and the rest escaped to? Tang Tian suddenly asked, killing intent flashing past his eyes. Ghost Claw, I'm sorry, I have to go train and cannot accompany the two of you, please forgive me. Crane bowed and apologized to the two of them, holding onto his sword with his head held high, neither too fast nor too slow. Crane's figure was originally tall and straight, and the way he walked was different from ordinary people, with a rather upright appearance. Go train. Don't worry. Sai Lei is very powerful. Tang Tian was extremely confident in Sai Lei's mechanical techniques. Xiaqing ran over panting, seeing Ling Su. His face revealed joy. Mr. Ling is awake. That's great. Bing was speechless. Tangtian, who was he? Seeing Crane train, Ling Su immediately felt the pressure. How could he lose to this sissy? Without saying a word, he rolled the book in his bosom. Not knowing how long had passed, Tang Tian finally rested. His entire body looked as though he was fished out of the water, panting heavily. His gaze swept across the diminishing anvils. The dazed Tang Tian's nose suddenly turned sour. The impact of the battle far exceeded everyone's imagination. Tang Tian and Ling Su's faces were lifeless. Ghost Claw. Tang Tian stared blankly at the remaining anvils for a while, wiped his sweat and continued to train. When his gaze unintentionally swept across the light door, his entire person felt as though he was struck by lightning and stood there in a daze. Behind the light door, the densely packed cards had all disappeared, leaving only one lonely card, continuously emitting a faint light. Ling Su, you have to work hard. But with your standard, entering the waiting list is already not easy. Guodong had never dropped out of the Heaven's Road list in the past 10 years. Anyone who had studied the Heaven's Road list would be extremely familiar with the Fire Crow Executioner. So when Guodong's name disappeared from the Heaven's Road list, and was replaced by an unfamiliar name, everyone was stunned. He and the Stone Gravel Beast King fought for a long time. After Blind Cord Old Man left, the Stone Gravel Beast King also wanted to escape. Xiaqing chased it for a long distance, but the Stone Gravel Beast King still managed to escape. When the last anvil was ground, Tang Tian lay on the ground, spread his arms and looked at the void above his head. I'll send someone to investigate right now. Xiaqing agreed straightforwardly. Guodong and Guiyu escaped with injuries. To the Xiasword village, it was extremely dangerous. Once the two of them recovered from their injuries, they would return and attack, and the Xiasword village would be finished. Hearing this fellow read it out clumsily and stutteringly was a form of torture. Don't worry, I won't despise you. Tang Tian raised his arms and flexed his muscles. This godlike young man is destined to be the figure you'll chase for your entire life. Thank you. Bing and Magic Flute went to Sai Lei's place, bringing along Flamingo and Corvus Gold. It was said that Sai Lei had created a new mechanical weapon and asked Bing to test it out. He looked at Ling Su with a gaze full of respect. Ling Su's single spear was like a bird, piercing through the entire group of stone gravel beasts. He was extremely powerful. Although he lost to Blind Cord Old Man, but to him, it was a glorious defeat. Tang Tian, who was immersed in training, was extremely focused. Tang Tian returned to his residence with his tail between his legs. Ling Su struggled to sit up. His gaze landed on Flamingo, who was standing quietly at the side. Oh, he's called Crane. Tang Tian introduced. Don't worry, he's not your brother, I've already asked. He's one of us now, his strength is not bad, definitely not weaker than you. I won't be sad, I really won't be sad, there's only sunshine on my face, there's only hope in my heart. I'll sing loudly in the wind and rain, I'll use my fists to say, some light will definitely blossom. Can you stand stably? After being silent for a while, he began to train. And the news from Immortal Marshal had revealed how Tang Tian defeated Guodong. Fire Crow Guillotine, Guodong's famous consummate technique. To lose to this technique, no one would have any doubts. He had comprehended the fire scythe gloves. The power of the true power combustion was much stronger than the friction of the air, so this type of training was no longer of much use to him. Ghost Claw, our luck is pretty good. Bing suddenly muttered to himself. Although Xiaqing had comprehended the cry of the Guardian Heart Sword, but he still did not have the confidence to defend against Guodong. Furthermore, there was still Guiyu, who was not weak. Magic Flute saw Tang Tian's look of eagerness to fight, and thought about his weird heart demon. Even Magic Flute, who was widely known for his knowledge and wisdom, did not know what to say. Ghost Claw, I'm done. Ling Su snorted. What do you know, I'm looking for inner peace. But no matter how much Ling Su did not like Crane's hard work was something that he had to admit. This matter, how could it end just like that? Same clothes. He began to clean up the recruit barracks, 10,000 anvils, one could imagine the amount of iron scraps. But Tang Tian still persevered in grinding the anvils every day just like before. He did not choose to ask Crane how to use the Heavenly Light Pellet Crane, and did not think about how to improve the fire scythe gloves. Tang Tian, who specially came to show off in the blink of an eye, was alone there. The dazzling sparks and the sound of the anvil's grinding appeared again. I won't be sad, I really won't be sad. You stood there and looked at me, your gaze was as warm as spring, the fire scythe ghost claws fire from your hand to my palm. You said it was your pride, your strength. Godlike young lad, you will definitely become very strong. Quietly looking at the group of people, Crane's heart had an indescribable feeling. But he suddenly had a feeling that in the next 3 years his days would not be boring. Ling Su snorted, his gaze suddenly landed on Crane and he was stunned. Wah, godlike young lad, of course you are so powerful. It was the first time Ling Su saw a man eating roasted meat. He took out a small knife and meticulously cut the meat from the bone, then cut it into thin slices, neatly arranged them into 3 rows, and then used chopsticks to pick up the meat, dipped it in seasoning and chewed slowly. Tang Tian happily held onto the immortal martial news and showed it off to Ling Su. Ahua. Tang Tian was startled, but he quickly reacted. You mean flamingo, you need to find Sai Lei. Oh, leave it to me, to a godlike young lad, this is a small problem. Relax. Ghost Claw, Fire Scythe Ghost Claw will definitely flourish in my hands. Entering the light door, it was empty. He continued with his unfinished training, grinding the anvils. Thank you. Ling Su said softly to Flamingo, the mechanical beast that did not have any life, was already his comrade in his heart. Ling Su, who was reading a book, twitched his eyes. I will not be sad, I really will not be sad, I never show it on my face. Who is this fellow? Isn't he very powerful? Crane was dressed in black and appeared in front of the two. Ling Su's fierce words came one after another, but Tang Tian calmed down. Seems like Ling Su's brain was only slightly damaged. Not weaker than me? What do you mean? Come on. Let's fight, crazy young lad. Tang Tian laughed and asked curiously, Ling Su, how did you become a bookworm? To be honest, with your IQ, this path is too difficult for you. Flamingo's body was badly damaged. Although Flamingo's leg strength was astonishing, it did not have any fighting strength. On the way back while carrying Ling Su, it suffered many injuries. Looking around at the empty and quiet recruit barracks, Tang Tian suddenly felt uncomfortable. No one knew. Still wearing the same clothes, this sissy. Ling Su curled his lips, extremely disdainful. He did not like Crane's actions. Tang Tian thought he heard wrongly. Ling Su actually thanked him. Did the sun rise from the west? Could it be that he was injured and his brain was damaged? Let me tell you, if you dare to damage even a strand of Ahua's leg hair, you're dead. I'm fine. Ling Su saw the concern in Tang Tian's eyes, and his heart warmed. His voice was hoarse and dry, sounding extremely tired. Hey young lad Tang, where can I fix Ahua? Ling Su turned and asked. Crane you? Tang Tian pointed to the black clothes on Crane's body and stammered. Tang Tian suppressed the sourness in his heart, took a deep breath, facing the remaining anvil as though he was facing a ghost claw. He clenched his fist, squeezed out a smile and said loudly, Don't tell me your heart is very restless? Tang Tian did not understand. Ling Su's eyes were twitching. Finally he could not take it anymore and flew into a rage. Scram. Tang Tian muttered to himself after saying that. The exhausted Tang Tian's eyelids became heavy, and very quickly he fell asleep. Many people even found the Heaven Road list's waiting list from a few weeks ago. On the long waiting list, Tang Tian's name never appeared. Crane's body was always spotless. He never walked fast nor slow. When he always sat upright. His face always had a polite smile. He always bowed, thanked and apologized. What made Ling Su even more annoyed was, when this fellow ate, he was as gentle as a woman. When Bing's figure walked out from the martial god shrine, he saw Tang Tian sleeping soundly, and then saw the floor full of iron shavings, where the anvils used to be was now empty. Ghost Claw, I'm about to finish grinding 10,000 anvils. Ling Su, how are you feeling? Tang Tian opened his eyes wide and quickly asked. Ever since Ling Su woke up, every day after he finished training, he would hug a book and crazily read. Congratulations. Magic Flute's leisurely voice traveled over. One could hear that he was somewhat astonished. Every time you struggle free from your inner demons, it is a nirvana. Your state of mind will become even purer. No matter if it is for your cultivation of martial techniques or martial spirit, it is of great benefit. Sounds powerful. Tang Tian's eyes lit up. He was eager to try. Then I want the demons in my heart. Wah wah wah, if I get rid of the demons in my heart I can become even more powerful. Ling Su was about to speak but suddenly he was stunned. Seeing that, Tang Tian immediately turned his head. He was also stunned. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.